boy was stuck at level 1. Because of that, he was humiliated every single day, even by his younger brother, the most powerful mage. His name was Kurosaki Rei, the older brother with no talent whatsoever. Still, he never gave up on becoming a mage, until one day, in the Void Dungeon, everyone was defeated, and in the end, only he remained. As the final boss toyed with him, spilling his blood, a system appeared. He obtained the seal of a dark ability, time reversal, and so he began turning back the entire world until he reached a full regression into the past, to when he was still young. But now, with the most broken ability in the world, people stop in the middle of the street, wondering what they're seeing. 10 years ago, it all began when something suddenly appeared over the city. Out of nowhere, an inverted castle appeared, floating between the buildings. At the same time, mysterious portals manifested all over Japan. Then people began to undergo a sudden, inexplicable change. Awakening to mana, they gained access to previously unknown powers. With their new powers, the most talented challenged the dungeons for fame. A mage's talent was judged by the color of their own mana. While most had one color, there were rare and powerful dual users. One such case was Kurosaki Akai, a famous two-color user. Behind him, his power manifested in the form of a demon. Changing scenes, Kurosaki faces his opponent with a confident smile. With a swift move, he throws the winged monster into the air. Then, he prepares a powerful spell to finish the enemy for good. His attack pierces the demon's body, ending the battle with precision. Defeated, the monster screams in pain as the magic attack runs through it. With victory secured, Kurosaki lands on the ground effortlessly. He then approaches the Mana Stone, while his brother watches him. His younger brother, Kurosaki Rei, stares at the situation without a word. Tossing the stone at him, Akai calls him incompetent with a harsh glare. Known as the Purple King, he orders Rei to grab the item quickly. Later, the boy is seen with his arm covering his face. With no aptitude and no color, his brother Kurosaki Rei was completely different. Despite this, he refused to give up on his dream of becoming a mage. For this reason, he worked as an item carrier inside the dungeons. Joining the party out of pity, he followed his stronger, more famous brother. He clung to the small hope that one day he would awaken an ability. Moving forward, the group finally reaches the great boss's door. One of the members points out it's the boss room, thinking it will be easy. Before them, the door then begins to open slowly on its own. Entering the room, the group finds a vast and completely empty space. Suddenly, a figure emerges on the other side, in front of some gears. Revealing his identity, the boss introduces himself as Kronos, God of Time. With a smirk, Akai says he doesn't look like much. Then he attacks first, launching a blast of magic toward the boss. His most powerful strike rushes toward the God of Time with full force, but Kronos easily blocks the attack using only one of his hands. Counterattacking, the boss unleashes several slashes in their direction. He simply observes the result of his strike, without moving a single muscle. Confused, Akai shouts, asking what just happened. Then, the boss's eye fixes directly on the strongest mage. Trapped by the boss's power, Akai can't move to defend himself. With a single swift strike, the boss rips his head off. Shocked, the other two team members watch the scene, completely paralyzed. Falling lifelessly, Akai's body tumbles toward his brother. Seeing this, the boy can't believe what just happened. Then, his brother's lifeless body falls right in front of him. In disbelief, he stammers that this can't be happening. Having defeated the Purple King, Kronos simply observes the result of his attack. Screaming in panic, they shout that it's a monster and they need to run. Before they can escape, the boss eliminates them with a single fatal blow. After finishing them off, the God of Time turns to the boy. Lying on the ground, the boy stares at the monster, unable to move properly. Looking at him, the boss begins to speak directly to the young survivor. With a smile on his face, he looks the boy up and down. Then Kronos asks if he is the boy who is completely colorless. Resting a hand on the ground, the boy clenches his fist tightly. He shouts that he still hasn't achieved anything in his life. Saying he doesn't want to die, he crawls over and grabs a fallen sword. Holding the weapon, he yells that he can't die yet. Finding it interesting, Kronos asks why he challenges him, despite being colorless. Gripping the sword tightly, he prepares for the coming fight. Standing up, he declares that he can't just give up fighting now. At this, the boss says, "Very well," and manifests several portals around them. With a smile, Kronos announces that he will now test his determination. Attacking without mercy, the God of Time cuts the boy's arm off. His face wounded, He stares at his opponent, unable to react. He screams as he's hit head-on by his enemy's power. Seeing the damage, Kronos tells himself he went a little too far. Then he snaps his fingers, using his ability to rewind the situation. Back to normal, the boy suddenly finds himself completely unharmed. Not understanding, he wonders if his wounds have been healed. Preparing a new strike, the boss now summons the power of fire. Unleashing his attack, a huge wave of flames surges toward him. Amidst the fire, he announces that he'll give the boy 3 minutes to think. He then reveals the name of his attack, the Flames of Despair. With a smile, he asks what the boy will do in this situation. Muttering that weak attacks are useless, he sees a sword on the ground. Without hesitating, he moves forward and grabs the hilt of the new flaming sword. Screaming with all his might, he pulls the weapon from the ground. He then swings the sword in a powerful motion, cutting through the flames. Charging through the fire, he runs toward the enemy without a second's hesitation. Along the way, the flames begin to burn his clothes and his body. Even so, he keeps screaming and pushing forward through the fire without stopping. On the other side, Kronos simply watches the boy slowly approaching him. Seeing this, he cracks a satisfied smile at the test of endurance. But suddenly, his expression changes completely as he notices the boy getting closer. Emerging from the fire, the boy manages to drive the sword through Kronos' chest. With a smile on his face, he says he finally managed to land a hit. He confirms that he landed a blow, leaving the sword embedded in his chest. Smiling, Kronos simply uses his ability to rewind time once more. Back to his original state, the boy stares at the situation, completely confused. Everything returns to the exact moment before the attack, nullifying his one successful hit. Saying it was good entertainment, Kronos reveals his completely healed chest. With no strength left to continue, the sword simply slips and falls from his hands. On his knees, he says that all his effort meant nothing. As he gives up, he wonders if he's really going to die here like this. But suddenly, a system window appears right in front of him. It notifies him that the seal on the black skill has been released. On the other side, the boss watches the scene with a curious expression. Then, a notification announces that he has acquired the skill drain ability. Immediately after, he discovers he's stolen the boss's rewind technique. Seeing this, Kronos wonders if it could be what he was thinking. Screaming with all his might, the boy activates the stolen ability. An unknown power begins to swirl around him, changing the entire situation. In despair, Kronos screams as he's hit by the boy's new ability. Then, the system announces that the power is executing a regression. His body and consciousness are then pulled back in time. Changing scenes, he suddenly wakes up in a completely unfamiliar room. Sitting up in bed, he tries to stand up to understand what happened. He tells himself that he used the ability, but the result was different. Looking in the mirror, he is shocked by the image he sees before him. Seeing his reflection, he wonders if that's his younger self. Screaming in desperation, Kronos curses the boy as he's caught by the new ability. Then, the system announces that the power is executing a regression. His consciousness is then pulled into a completely unknown time vortex. In the middle of a void, he comes face to face with someone's silhouette. Claiming he wasn't strong enough, the figure admits he couldn't defeat Kronos. For that reason, he explains that he entrusted the boy with that special ability. Believing in him, he says the boy will surely be able to defeat him. Back in reality, he suddenly wakes up, staring at the ceiling. Sitting up in bed, he tries to understand what just happened. Facing the mirror, he stares at his own reflection, understanding absolutely nothing. He realizes his body is visibly younger and is completely surprised. Touching his face, he wonders if this is all just a dream. Going to the window, he looks out at the city below. In the sky, he questions why the inverted castle is still white. He then remembers that the castle had turned black just the day before. That inverted castle had remained white for a long time, until 7 years ago. Over time, it began to be stained by a color. When it turned completely black, a mysterious gate finally opened for everyone. This door revealed the entrance to the inside of that enormous floating structure. Inside, the god of time and space awaited his challengers. Understanding everything, he remembers what happened during his final battle. He recalls stealing the rewind ability just before he was defeated. Grabbing the phone next to his bed, he decides to confirm his suspicion. Looking at the date, he sees it's exactly as he thought. Facing the mirror, he understands he has returned 7 years into the past. To be sure, he opens his skill window without wasting a moment. Looking at the list, he notices the rewind skill has disappeared, but to his surprise, The drain ability was still on the list. With a smile, he confirms that skill drain was still there. For 10 years, he had never managed to acquire a single skill. With this ability in hand, he realizes everything can be different. With his phone in hand, he checks the information for that important day. Seeing the date, he finally understands what he needs to do next. He confirms that today is the exam day for new mages. In front of the station, he heads to the Mage Association building. Entering the building, he walks through the main doors of the Grand Association. Looking around, he notices the place looks new, since he's gone back in time. Suddenly, a voice calls him colorless and asks what he's doing there. Just then, he runs into Goto and Oike, two mages he knows. He then remembers they are his brother's lackeys. Questioning him, they say it's useless for a colorless person to try the exam again. Remembering the past, he had always failed all his previous attempts. After failing, he would ask everyone to just leave him alone. Without a word, he ignores them both and keeps walking through the building's lobby. Sitting at a desk, the examiner Hinata Reina prepares for the test. Recognizing the boy, she asks if it's him yet again. She warns him about the danger, but he replies that this time, he'll be fine. Arriving at the exam gate, she asks if she needs to explain the rules again. Confirming he already knows them, he gets ready to enter the test site. To pass, he needs to collect 3 magic stones from goblins inside the dungeon. Normally, the task wouldn't be difficult for someone who had already awakened a special ability. However, he knows that today, and today only, something unexpected is about to happen. Suddenly, a huge creature stomps heavily inside the beginner's dungeon. Remembering the future, he knows a strong monster will appear there today. Confirming his suspicion, a level 37 redcap goblin appears out of nowhere. Outside, everyone wonders why a redcap is there. Drawing her sword, Hinata yells for Kurosaki to run as fast as he can. He knows the level difference between them is too great to win. Remembering the regression, he knows Hinata couldn't beat the monster before. With a single blow, the monster easily shatters the examiner's sword. Surprised, the examiner faces the oncoming attack with no time to react. Just then, she is hit head-on and thrown back by the goblin's strike. He remembers she fought only to buy him time to escape. Powerless, she just stares at the monster after taking a direct hit. In the past, she was so badly injured that she had to abandon her career. He remembered it all happened because of his own past incompetence. Because of that incident, Hinata's career was completely and forever ruined, but now, he faces the situation with a completely different and determined look. Saying that this time is different, he prepares for the monster's attack. He knows the goblin has a skill that greatly enhances its abilities. It becomes so strong that normal attacks can't even touch it. With his sword repelled, he finds himself disarmed before the powerful monster. Instead of retreating, he charges forward and lands a direct punch on the monster. Even with an injured hand, he stands firm after landing the blow. The goblin's eye then glows, signaling it's about to use a skill. Coming from above, the goblin tries to land a punch with all its might, but its punch is suddenly stopped, leaving the monster completely stunned. Just then, he steals the enhancement skill, and his physical stats improve instantly. Grabbing his sword, he knows he just needs to steal the skill to win easily. With a single strike, he splits the defenseless goblin right down the middle. Now powerless, he says the monster is nothing more than a pile of meat. Shocked by the scene, she asks if he defeated the monster in one blow. He then reflects on the power of his new skill drain ability. Realizing its potential, he says it's an incredible power to have. At that moment, she approaches and asks how he managed to do it so easily. Not knowing what to say, he thinks it's best not to mention black skills. He then makes up that it was a coincidence, but she yells at him to stop lying. Composing herself, she warns that the exam will be cancelled because of the irregular. Announcing she will report the incident, she prepares to leave the dungeon. Grabbing the mana stone, he notes that irregulars weren't supposed to appear yet. Looking at the item, he says he still needs 2 more stones. Yelling at him, she warns that this is no time for that because it's dangerous. Suddenly, a goblin's foot appears right behind the boy. Turning around, he notices the arrival of more monsters in the dungeon. He then faces the 2 goblins, saying their time was up. With a cry, the 2 creatures charge at him in an attack. With a single sword strike, he defeats both goblins at once. Leaving the bodies on the ground, he turns and calmly continues on his way. Shocked by the scene, the evaluator says that was simply impressive. Picking up the 3 mana stones, he asks if he can keep them. Not understanding the question, she yells, questioning what he just said. Back at the association headquarters, the result of the exam is finally decided. Handing him the document, she informs him that it is his mage license. He then takes his new license, looking at his name on it. Holding the document, he closes his eyes for a brief moment of satisfaction. Remembering the past, he never gave up on his dream of becoming a mage. For almost 10 years, he worked only as a simple item porter. Despite being looked down on, He endured it all to keep following his one dream. But now, he finally says that he has managed to become a real mage. Additionally, she explains the details about exchanging the mana stones. Coming from the monsters, the stones are a very valuable source of energy. Looking at the paper, he says that this could serve as a good income. From the sale of the items, he got a surprising sum of 3 million. Shocked by the number, he yells, asking if it was really 3 million. She then explains that mages earn a lot of money, especially by defeating strong monsters. With a smile, she clenches her fist and says goodbye to the new mage. He then faces the woman, preparing to ask her an important question. He excuses himself, saying he'd like to ask something about the dungeons. Arriving at a portal, he sees the place is completely empty and silent. Checking the panel, he confirms that the dungeon is reserved just for him. The system confirms that the C-rank dungeon is in his name. He then remembers that he could never enter a dungeon alone before. Remembering Hinata in the hospital, he knows he can change everything now. Seeing this new version of her, he clenches his fist with total determination. He tells himself that now he can finally change the future. With a new power, he uses Mana Hand and draws all the items to him. Arriving at the location, a voice questions what he's doing there. Then, they say a colorless mage can't enter the dungeon alone. He then informs them that he passed the exam and can therefore enter alone. In disbelief, one of them accuses him of lying about his approval. Angrily, the goon aggressively grabs his face. He then challenges him to show what his great new ability is. Using his Mana Hand, Oiki traps the boy in a tight grip, but the boy plants his feet on the ground, preparing for an immediate counterattack. With a single move, he breaks free and punches him in the face. As the goon falls, the system announces that Mana Hand has been stolen. Deactivating the skill, the Mana Hand simply disappears, leaving them both surprised. Then, the boy activates the same skill he just stole from his rival. Using Mana Hand, he effortlessly throws the goon far away. Shocked, Oike asks if he really managed to awaken a new ability all of a sudden. Seeing the scene, Goto tells him not to get carried away and prepares an attack. Launching his attack, Goto fires a powerful fireball at him. Activating his power, the boy prepares to take the hit without backing down. Using enhancement, he manages to block the fireball with his own arm. Completely confused, Goto is shocked to see his attack being stopped. With his fist ready, he charges forward to end the fight for good. He then punches the ground, hitting Goto with the impact and sending him flying. Seeing this, Oike wonders if he also uses body enhancement. Defeated on the ground, the goon can only look up at the boy. Then, he asks if the boy is a rare dual-color user. The boy then denies it, saying it's not what he thinks at all. Touching his opponent, he instantly steals the fireball ability. With his new power, he summons the fireball and adds another color. Surprised, Goto yells about a third color, something he's never seen before. Creating a sphere of power, Rei faces his opponent with total confidence. Struck head-on, Goto is thrown back by the impact of the energy. Just then, Oike prepares to use a skill while no one is looking. Holding the power in his hand, he asks if they still want to keep fighting. Standing side by side, Goto and Oike just stare at Rei in silence. Shouting an apology, the two of them run off far away. Alone again, Rei lets out a long sigh and relaxes his shoulders. Remembering the past, he worries about what Akai would do if he found out. In this memory, the image of Akai appears with a menacing smile. Chained up, he was forced to stay on the ground like a servant. In another scene, Akai stomps on his head, keeping him completely immobilized. Thinking of the danger, he knows Akai would come after him with everything he has. He also remembers that a special dungeon will be released soon. The scene changes, and Rei is now standing before a huge gate. Focused, he decides he needs to raise his level as much as possible. Soon after, he enters the dungeon to begin his intense training. Once inside, he starts to carefully explore the path. Glancing to the side, he stays focused on his main goal. Suddenly, a large, fiery explosion erupts right in front of him. At that moment, a fire monster appears, revealing itself to be a level 38 mage. With great effort, he can barely create a single fireball. In contrast, the enemy mage easily creates several fire spheres. He observes the opponent's power, his expression remaining very serious. Without hesitation, the mage launches all the fire spheres at him. Narrowly dodging, he manages to escape the first wave of magic attacks. Several fire projectiles collide, causing an explosion near him. Leaping into the air, he stomps hard on the ground to counterattack. He faces the mage and admits he can't win in a straight fight. Even so, he turns to the side, preparing a different plan. Moving forward, he says, "There's one thing that never changes. no matter the level. After using a skill, the mage becomes momentarily vulnerable in front of him. According to him, there's always an opening to attack the enemy. He clenches his fist, knowing he has a 2-second window of total advantage. Seizing the opportunity, he runs in and lands a direct punch on the mage. By touching its arm, he manages to steal the fireball skill. Seeing the monster on the ground, he realizes that was its only attack. Without its magic, the mage now tries to attack with its bare hands. Standing still, Ray says that once he steals the skill, it's not so tough. Using the stolen power, he creates several fireballs at once. Combining them, he forms a huge tornado of flames against the monster. After the attack, a notification screen appears in front of him. Several windows show that he leveled up many times at once. He explains that defeating strong enemies grants a lot of experience with his skill. His level jumps from 5 to 12, and he clenches his fist. Standing on the stairs, he decides he's going to rush to reach level 30. Defeating a monster with his dagger, he levels up once more. Facing another enemy with magic, the level up notification appears again. After one more fight, he defeats the last monster and levels up. Checking his status, he realizes he reached level 27 very quickly. Despite the progress, he notices it's getting harder and harder to level up. To keep climbing, he concludes that he needs to face stronger opponents. Arriving at the boss room, he finds his next great challenge. Looking at the door, he believes the boss is the perfect opponent. Pushing the gate open, he prepares to enter the confrontation room. Inside the dark room, he spots a mysterious silhouette in the back. Revealing the creature, the feet of a large demon appear in the darkness. In the center of the room, a level 45 skull demon emerges with 2 imps. Analyzing the opponents, he says he'll have a chance if he steals their techniques. So, without wasting time, he charges straight at the monsters. Leaping through the air, he rushes toward the large skull demon. He readies a powerful punch, getting closer and closer to the target. But as he attacks, his fist is blocked by a protective barrier. Seeing his strike fail, he stares intently at the monster in the center. Thrown back by the impact, he manages to balance himself and land. He says that, just as he thought, he still can't reach the opponent. Because of the barrier, he explains that he can't activate his skill. Without giving him time, the demon opens its mouth and prepares to attack. Right after, the monster leaps from above, coming at him with full force. Ready to fight back, he states that he needs to break the monster's barrier. He then notes that he has no choice but to use them. Seeing the imps, he says he doesn't have that power right now. Leaping toward the target, he charges at the monster. He strikes the monster, landing a powerful punch to its chest. Just then, he activates his ability, stealing the ice needle technique. The monster is hit and can't react to the blow. He then turns and attacks the other monster with a fireball. Struck by the magic, the second monster is left completely stunned. Preparing the new skill, he forms the ice needle in his hand. Unleashing the magic, he hits and completely defeats the first monster. Landing on the ground, he turns to face the dungeon boss. Without wasting time, the demon begins to summon the monster back. He realizes the imp will be immediately resummoned by the boss. Seeing the monster return, he says this could be very problematic, but with a smirk, he says that for him, this is convenient. Charging forward again, he attacks the newly summoned monster. By defeating the monster, he levels up and gains experience points. Just then, a notification informs him his mana has reached the required amount. Having met the requirement, skill synthesis is finally unlocked for him. Meanwhile, the demon lets out a roar, preparing for combat. In one hand, he prepares the stolen ice needle ability. Then, in the other hand, he also prepares the fireball ability. With a smile, he gets ready to use the new skill synthesis. Combining the two spells, he begins to create a new combined power. Pushing off the ground, he leaps high into the air to attack. Flying through the air, he aims his attack right at the demon. Shouting the skill's name, he hurls the fire spear at the boss. Piercing the barrier, the attack hits the monster's body head-on. Seeing the magic connect, he confirms he managed to break its defense. Stealing the barrier, he yells that he's going to land another blow on the boss. Removing the enhancement, he declares that the demon's powers are finished. With a furious glare, the demon readies itself for the final confrontation. Unleashing another fire spear, he attacks the boss again. Hit head-on, the monster is completely engulfed in the explosion. After its defeat, a crystal drops and several level-up notifications appear. Seeing his level jump to 33, he lets out a sigh of relief. A screen then explains how synthesis creates more powerful techniques. According to the explanation, this ability is usually used around level 30. Sitting on the ground, he says he thought he'd be able to use the technique. He's happy he managed to use the new ability correctly. While he rests, a notification informs him that his skill limit has increased. Seeing his slots increase to 5, He says things just got more convenient. The scene changes, and the story now returns to a building in the city. Arriving there, he places the crystal he obtained on a counter. Hinata shouts, asking if he really defeated the skull demon all by himself. She's shocked that he's already at level 33 in a single day. With a smile, he replies that he got a little lucky in the dungeon. In disbelief, Hinata says she's never heard of anything like this before. She informs him that at this level, he can become a B-rank mage. Just then, a voice interrupts, asking them to wait a moment. Arriving on the scene, Akai questions if that mutt really became a B rank. Staring at Akai, Rei remains silent with a serious expression. Akai then says that Rei can't even use a single skill. Mockingly, he questions how Rei could possibly be a B rank mage. Trying to explain, Hinata says that Rei defeated both demons on his own. Turning to Rei, Akai stares at him without saying a word. He asks if it's true, beginning to release his power. Preparing an attack, he creates a sphere of energy in his hand. Firing his magic, he launches a blast that knocks everyone back. To protect himself, Rei creates a barrier in front of his body. Blocking the attack, he says that was honestly pretty dangerous. Shouting Akai's name, Hinata is completely confused about what's happening. Noticing the ability, Akai says the rumor about him was true. With a tired look, Rei just confirms that yes, it seemed so. Akai then approaches and tells him not to get too excited. With a smile, he says he'll see for himself just how capable he is. Frightened, Hinata asks if he's really planning to fight inside. He replies that it wouldn't be a problem if Rei were a true B rank. Questioning the ability, he asks if everything he did to reach B rank was a lie. Clenching his fist, Rei knows he'll be in trouble if he refuses the challenge. With a fixed gaze, he prepares for what's to come. Lifting his head, he says he understands and accepts the proposed confrontation. Seeing his attitude, Akai looks irritated and calls him a bastard. Walking to the association's arena, the two prepare for the fight. Staring at each other, Rei decides he won't let his guard down. While Rei can use 3 skills, Akai has the capacity for 5. Knowing he'd lose in a direct fight, he understands he needs a different strategy. To start, he fires the first attack using an ice needle. In response, Akai creates several fireballs with no difficulty. Advancing toward each other, the spells prepare for the imminent clash. The two attacks then collide right in the center of the battle arena. Thrown back, Akai recovers from the impact of the massive explosion. Emerging from the smoke, he's still standing without any visible injuries. Suddenly, he notices something and is surprised by Rei's approach. Seizing the chance, Rei uses a physical enhancement and charges at his opponent. Recognizing the ability, Akai calls him a dual-color user. Analyzing the fight, Rei notes that was Akai's 4th skill. Calculating his remaining mana, he prepares to deliver his final blow. Using synthesis, he creates a powerful fire spear to attack. Noticing the combination, Akai says he can use 3 colors of skills. Even so, he smiles and says the fight isn't over yet. Launching a fireball, Akai counterattacks Rei's magic. The impact of the explosion sends Rei flying to the ground. He's surprised that his spear lost to such a simple skill. Akai says it's no surprise, since he got too carried away. Bragging about his power, he warns that he's on a different level. Creating another power sphere, he tells Rei to dance for him. He then launches the first energy sphere toward his opponent. Running across the arena, Rei tries to dodge Akai's various attacks. With no other choice, he begins to prepare another synthesis spell. Firing the new fire spear, he tries to hit his rival, but Akai just smiles, already preparing another fireball. Crashing against the spear, the fireball explodes with immense force. To defend himself, he uses the mana barrier stolen from the demon. Even with the defense, the attack begins to shatter the entire barrier. Breaking through the barrier, the attack blasts Rei away with the explosion. Thrown into the air, Rei faces Akai's 10 consecutive attacks. He reveals this ability is only possible because of overclock. Laughing, Akai calls him a fool, doubting he can dodge. He then unleashes a shower of fireballs at Rei. But even in midair, Rei's gaze remains completely focused. Using his mana hand, he surprises Akai, grabbing him from the ground. Caught off guard, Akai can't believe he has another new skill. With this strategy, Akai would have been caught by the hand even if he dodged. Landing, Rei seizes the opening and charges straight at him. He knows he only has a few seconds for his final counterattack. He punches Akai in the face, leaving him completely defenseless. Akai takes the full force of the blow, unable to do anything to defend himself. The impact sends him flying high, away from Rei. Then, a notification appears, confirming the overclock skill has been stolen. With the power now in his hands, he declares that Akai is finished. Struggling to his feet, Akai calls him a bastard, furious. At this, Ray wonders if he's really going to continue the fight. With an insane look in his eyes, Akai screams that he's going to end him now. Suddenly, a new crystal magic begins to form in the air. Engulfed in energy, the crystal begins to gain more power. Shouting the skill's name, Akai readies his demon spear to attack. Shocked by the power, Ray wonders how he learned that skill. The spear flies toward Ray at high speed to strike him. Dodging by a hair, he watches the spear hit the arena floor. Unfazed, Akai says he only landed a hit because he was careless. Realizing the shift, Ray knows the Purple King is about to fight seriously. He then summons energy constructs, attacking with all his might. The impact of the blow throws him hard against the wall. Even in victory, Akai warns that he has much more power in reserve. Not giving up, Ray also prepares his own fire lance to retaliate. Without hesitation, Akai readies another demon spear for the final attack. Launching it, he creates an explosion that rushes forward with full force. Caught in the blast, Ray screams as he's pushed back by the force. Despite being hit, he manages to hold himself against the arena wall. With a smile, Akai says this proves he is the strongest. Ray agrees that the demon spear is one of the most powerful skills. Akai then warns him not to get arrogant just for using many skills. With a focused look, he suddenly seems to have an idea. He knows he can't win using only his current abilities. But, clenching his fist, he prepares to try something new. He wonders about the potential of that newly stolen purple ability. Until now, he could only synthesize 2 colors due to his mana. Using Overclock, he unleashes a large amount of purple power. Confused, Akai asks how he managed to use his ability. With double the mana, he says his prediction was correct. With his mana increased, the synthesis for the black ability is finally unlocked. With a smile, he says this was exactly what he was hoping for. Not understanding the plan, Akai only notices that his mana has increased. Then, he begins to concentrate a dark energy in the palm of his hand. He prepares to use the never-before-seen 3-color synthesis. Starting the process, he creates the base of the spell with the red skill. Next, he adds the blue ability to the red sphere of power. To complete the fusion, he combines the yellow skill with the others. Holding the dark sphere, he completes his new attack technique. Completely shocked, Akai screams, asking if that was black mana. He explains that they told him he wasn't suited for any of the colors. Looking at Akai, he states that all of that was completely wrong. Revealing his true nature, he declares himself a powerful dark mage. Screaming in desperation, Akai tells him to stay away with his magic. At that, the demon spear forms above Ray, ready to strike. With a focused gaze, he prepared for his next move. He then launches his sphere of black mana at his opponent. Unable to believe the power, Akai screams that it's impossible. He continued to hold his dark magic, ready for the final attack. In a panic, Akai launches his own magic to try and defend himself. While one prepares the spear, the other readies his dark sphere. Shouting the skill's name, he unleashes his powerful abyss flame. The 2 attacks rush toward each other in the middle of the arena. Hit head-on, Akai's spear shatters into pieces. The impact causes a massive energy explosion on the spot. After the smoke clears, he's still standing, though badly injured. Still on his feet, he gives a slight smile after the clash. Leaving Akai collapsed on the ground, he turns and walks away. Kneeling on the floor, he finally says that he managed to win the fight. Just then, a system window suddenly appears before him. The notification confirms he has acquired a new synthesis ability. At the door, Hinata appears and starts walking toward him. Running over, worried, she asks if he was really okay after the fight. Still on the ground, he turns and answers that he is somehow. Impressed by the power, she asks what kind of ability that was. Realizing the situation, he decides he can no longer hide his power. A different energy begins to manifest in his right hand. He then explains to her that it seems to be a black skill. Completely shocked, she repeats the word, not believing what she heard. Standing before her, he states that it was the first of its kind in the world. He asks if he needs to report it, saying he'd rather keep the power a secret. Confused, she says that wasn't what she meant. She explains she just thought he was missing a huge opportunity. Explaining the system, the strongest mage of each color earns the title of king. She then explains that since he's the only black mage, he would earn the title. Because of this, he was now considered the Great Black King by everyone. Hearing this, he becomes thoughtful about becoming a king. He refuses, saying his level wasn't high enough yet. Then he asks her how Akai was doing after their fight. She replies that since he's a king, he'll recover very quickly. Taking out her phone, she says she's taking Akai to the medical room. Just then, he is handed a phone and asks what it is. Looking at the screen, his expression turns to one of complete surprise. On the phone, a notification showed that a level 70 dungeon had appeared. Also surprised, Hinata looks at him, not understanding what happened. With an intense gaze, he declares that the time had finally come. Being level 70, Not even the kings could clear that dungeon. As a result, the Ikebukuro dungeon was eventually left behind. Being abandoned, that dungeon became the start of a great tragedy. In a flashback, a terrible monster emerged from within that place. Since no one could clear the dungeon, it eventually collapsed, releasing everything. Making headlines, the first major monster outbreak occurred in Ikebukuro. With the city of Tokyo invaded, many people ended up dying in the attack. Holding the phone, he swears he won't let that happen again. Completely focused, he decides he must stop the dungeon's collapse for good. He then turns and tells Hinata he's going to conquer that dungeon. Though worried, she shouts that it's too dangerous, even for him. She explains that only A-rank mages and above were allowed to enter. Thinking about the time, he asks when the next A-rank exam would be. Answering his question, she informs him that the exam would be in 1 week. Looking toward the future, he declares that he will become A-rank in the next exam. Kurosaki Rei announces he's taking the next exam for A-rank. Completely surprised, Reina repeats what he said about the promotion to the coveted A-rank. She then says that with his skills, he could even pass the exam. Noticing her hesitation, Rei asks if there's a problem. Reina explains that to take the exam, he needs to clear a B-rank dungeon with a party. Realizing he has to find a party, he discovers he only has 1 week to do it. Taking out his phone, he remembers he completely forgot about something. In his messages, people are mocking him, telling him to ask his brother for help. Seeing people whispering, it's clear the news has already spread. Needing to clear a B-rank dungeon in a week, he finds himself in a tight spot. Leaning back, he wonders aloud what he should do now. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him, and he turns to look. Just then, a woman with her party informs him that she's going to put him to work today. Looking at the group of women, Rei asks what they want. Complaining, the party leader says her fire skill is too weak. With her head down, the girl being scolded apologizes. Turning away, Rei realizes he saw something he wasn't supposed to see. Remembering the past, he recalls a time when he was also dead weight. The party leader then tells Ichinos that she's dead weight. With wide eyes, Rei finally realizes who that girl is. Shocked, he recognizes the girl as the famous Ichinos Aya. In the future, she would become known to everyone as the Scarlet King, but at this moment, she was still seen as an incompetent mage. Watching the scene, Rei couldn't imagine she was being mistreated by her own party. Clenching her hands, she worries about her sister's medical bill. Desperate, she promises the leader she'll do better next time. The leader then challenges her to prove her worth in today's raid. Determined, Ichinos assures her she'll do her best to succeed. Turning her back, the leader just calls for the party to leave the area. Watching the party leave, Rei wonders if they'll really be okay. Walking down the street, Rei starts to reflect on what he just saw. He remembers that Ichinose will become the Scarlet King in a few years. But before that, she would go through hardships, including a serious accident around this time. In that accident, she would be injured and fall into a coma for several years. Suddenly, he stops as a terrible suspicion about what he saw crosses his mind. Standing in the middle of the street, he wonders if the incident will happen today. Recalling her expression, he realizes the girl didn't look normal. Understanding the urgency, he realizes he needs to hurry to get there. The scene changes, and the boss room doors begin to shake violently. In front of the room, the party prepares for what's to come. Suddenly, the door is blown open from the inside with great force. Emerging from the debris, a level 45 Dullahan faces the party. With a smile, the party leader announces she has a great idea. Just then, she gives Ichinos a hard shove on the back without warning. Being pushed, Ichinos runs toward the monster against her will. Smiling, the leader orders her to fight the monster all by herself. Scared, Ichinos says she can't beat the Dullahan without any help. Losing patience, the leader threatens to kick her out of the party if she doesn't obey. Then, she tells Ichinos to do her best for her sister's sake. With no other choice, she just lowers her head in complete silence. Turning to the monster, she says she understood the order she was given. Meanwhile, the other party members watch everything with a smile. With her hands forward, she begins to concentrate her fire magic. Unleashing the attack, she hits the Dullahan with a large fireball. Even after a direct hit, the monster remains standing without a scratch. Seeing the result, she realizes her attack isn't working on it. Taking a heavy step, the Dullahan begins to advance toward her. Then, it raises its giant sword, preparing for the final blow. Swinging down with full force, the monster's sword smashes into the ground. Thrown aside, she screams from the force of the powerful impact. Lying on the ground, Ichinos groans in pain after being thrown across the room. Completely injured, she lies there, unable to get up from the floor. Seeing the monster preparing another attack, she realizes this is the end for her. Closing her eyes, she laments feeling completely useless in this situation. Suddenly, a shout activates an extreme body enhancement skill. Appearing in front of her, Kurosaki Rei blocks the attack with his sword. Not understanding anything, Ichinose looks in shock at the person who saved her. Straining with a loud cry, he manages to hold back the giant monster's blade. Shoving the weapon away, he deflects the blow that would have hit her. Opening her eyes, she watches the scene, unable to believe what she's seeing. With his back to her, Rei gets into position to continue the fight against the monster. Turning slightly, he asks if she's okay after that attack. Watching the young man in action, the group of women just observes from a distance. Confused, the group's leader asks the others who that young man is. Since the Dullahan is a very heavy monster, the feat was even more impressive. Even so, Rei managed to deflect its blow with a single sword. Shocked by the young man's strength, the leader wonders what he is. Recovering, the monster prepares to attack the intruder once more. With a swift strike, the Dullahan hits Rei and throws him back. Lying on the ground, he realizes the previous attack wasn't enough. Then, he remembers that the monster's armor blocks normal attacks. Deciding to use another tactic, he charges toward the monster again. The Dullahan then prepares a new attack with its giant, heavy sword. Dodging the blow, Rei announces he's going to steal its ability to nullify it. Leaping towards the monster, he activates his skill-draining ability. Getting very close, he reaches out to touch the opponent's armor. To his surprise, he realizes the ability didn't activate at all. Dodging to the side, he uses his sword to block the Dullahan's attack. Ichinose asks if he's okay, and he replies that he managed to block it. Facing the monster, Rei finally understands what he needs to do to win. He understands he needs to touch the monster's body, not just its armor. Spinning its sword, the Dullahan prepares a powerful area of effect attack. Then, it launches a wave of energy that sweeps across the entire floor. Seeing the danger, Rei yells for Ichinose to get behind him for protection. With a magic barrier, he tries to block the monster's energy wave. Further back, the group of women is also caught by surprise by the attack. Unable to react, they are all thrown back by the powerful shockwave. Angered, the group's leader creates a huge crystal with her magic. Launching the crystal, she screams at the monster and attacks with all her might. Bracing for impact, the Dullahan launches another wave of energy. The two attacks collide forcefully in the middle of the room. Completely shocked, the leader watches her attack get completely overpowered. Hit head-on, the group's leader screams as she is thrown far away. At that moment, Kurosaki Rei is also pushed back by the explosion's impact. Facing the monster, the woman realizes her ice needles are useless. Seeing the situation, he decides to use a new combat strategy. He then prepares to use a new skill to break its defense. Surprised, Ichinose shouts, recognizing it as dark mana. Using his abyss skill, he surrounds himself with dark energy. Seeing the new threat, the Dullahan charges toward him to attack. The monster then unleashes another energy wave that sweeps across the floor. Standing still, Rei prepares to unleash his own attack against the monsters. He then fires a huge dark flame towards the energy wave. Advancing, the flame completely consumes the attack launched by the Dullahan. The dark attack then hits the monster head-on with great force. Engulfed, the Dullahan is completely consumed by the young man's flames. From the force of the blow, the monster's armor finally begins to crack. Holding his pose, he observes the devastating result of his powerful attack. Completely consumed, the monster's body begins to disintegrate entirely. In its place, only a large green crystal remains on the room's floor. Impressed, Ichinose wonders if he defeated it with a single blow. With his back turned, he gazes at the overwhelming result of his power in the room. Then Ichinose approaches and calls out to him, thanking him for the rescue. Bowing, she thanks him for saving her, and he says he's glad to help. With the crystal in his hand, he comments that it's exactly as he had read before. Relieved that it's all over, Ichinose gives a big, sincere smile. In the background, the leader of the other group gets up with great difficulty. Lost in the destroyed scenery, she asks what is happening here. Then, upon seeing Rei, she admits in a low voice that he's strong, but with a smile, she starts planning to take the reward for herself. Her expression changes, saying that the prize from that monster should be hers. Suddenly, the leader falls to the ground and Ichinose shouts for them to wait. Demanding the mana stone, the leader declares that the reward is theirs. Outraged, Ichinose shouts that he was the one who saved their lives. Holding the crystal, Rei says he doesn't mind handing over the item. In exchange, he says he wants her to be part of his group. Faced with the proposal, both the leader and Ichinose react with complete surprise. With a smile, he says the proposal depends entirely on her. Looking at Ichinose, he stresses that he'll only do it if she allows it. Suddenly, the group's leader can't contain a mocking laugh. Laughing out loud, she says she was wondering what he was going to say. Extending her hand, she says she agrees to his wish right away. Pulling Ichinose aside, she asks if the girl is okay with the situation. Feeling pressured, Ichinose just clutches the collar of her own clothes. Accepting the proposal, she says she is now under his care. Without hesitating, he hands the valuable mana stone to the woman. Turning her back, she comments that she never imagined selling dead weight for such a high price. Hearing the insult, he questions if the term dead weight was really true. Thanking him for the invitation, she accompanies him, and he apologizes for the sudden situation. Worried, she asks if it's okay, saying she'll only get in his way. He then reassures her, saying everything will be fine. Extending his hand, he promises she'll become stronger than those who abandoned her. Surprised, she asks if she'll really get stronger with his help. Keeping his cool, Kurosaki Rei stares at the girl, not looking away for a second. He then explains that he saw her at the association and overheard their entire conversation. Remembering the scene, she gets flustered, realizing what he heard. Apologizing, he says it was a coincidence, but he believes he can help her. Extending a hand, he formally offers his support to help her move forward. Hesitating for a moment, Ichinose clutches her clothes, thinking over the proposal. Making her decision, she finally accepts the help he's offering. With determination, she tells him she'll be in his care from now on. With a smile, Rei responds positively, confirming their deal is set. Shaking hands, they seal the new partnership they've just formed. The scene changes. The next day, they prepare for a new challenge. Standing before a portal, he announces they're going to conquer a B-rank dungeon. She then confirms that this will let them take the A-rank exam. With a confident smile, he says that's not the only reason. He then reveals to Ichinose that there's a key inside the dungeon to make her stronger. Lowering her head, Ichinose repeats the words, "mysterious key," to herself. Clenching a fist against her chest, she focuses on her new goal. Turning to the side, she announces it's time for them to go. Leading the way, he extends his hand and steps into the portal, with her right behind him. Opening up before them, the dungeon portal awaits their challenge. Arriving in the crystal cave, they find themselves inside a B-rank dungeon. Suddenly, she whips her head to the side, sensing movement. Pointing forward, she shouts for Rei to look at what's approaching. From the darkness, a pack of wild wolves emerges and stares them down. Stepping forward, he tells her to leave the monsters to him. With focused eyes, he prepares to attack the pack. Charging at high speed, he rushes the wolves without a second's hesitation. Reaching the first target, he strikes it with a precise sword slash. In the middle of the pack, he spins, hitting several wolves at once. Completely shocked, Ichinose watches the battle's outcome, unable to react. Thinking of her old party, she remembers they were strong too, but seeing this, she's speechless at the difference in power. It's clear their strength couldn't compare to Rei's. Reaching an open area, he announces that this is their objective. Saying he'll provide support, he tells her to stick to the plan. Confirming she understands, she readies herself for the next challenge. Alone in the middle of the cave, she focuses on the next step. Defeating a lot of monsters was the strategy for her to level up quickly. Even though she could only use simple attacks, she was determined to keep going. Seeing the monsters appear, she resolves to at least try her best. Casting a fireball, she begins to attack the group of creatures. From a distance, Rei watches. Understanding this was a test for Ichinose, he now waited to see if she would realize her own secret weapon. Sensing a presence, he turns and confirms someone has arrived. Declaring he won't let anyone interfere, he faces the approaching monsters. Focused on her fight, Ichinose hits one of the creatures with her fire magic. Suddenly, one of the creatures gets close and bites her hard. Even after defeating several, she realizes the monsters just keep coming. Shouting that her mana will run out at this rate, she starts to worry. Her face beaded with sweat, she's already showing clear signs of battle fatigue. Glancing to the side, she's surprised to see Rei fighting too. Fighting fiercely, he stops more monsters from reaching her position. After seeing this, she decides it's time to stop complaining. With new determination, she says she needs to live up to his expectations. As she destroys another creature, a level-up window finally appears before her. Then several level-up windows appear, and she notices her mana. Casting a new attack, she realizes her mana isn't running out. Watching from afar, Rei confirms that her mana reserve is her greatest weapon. Suddenly, a new notification window appears in front of Ichinose. Surprised by the notification, she reads about the new skill she just acquired. With the notification, the skill Explosive Furnace is finally unlocked for her. Moving to the boss room, a huge level 52 slime appears. Preparing to attack, the giant monster glares at the two intruders in the room. Shouting to Ichinose, Rei tells her to use the new skill she unlocked. Concentrating her mana, she prepares to use the powerful Explosive Furnace. Suddenly, a massive explosion of fire erupts around the girl. Impressed, she stares at the incredible power she just unleashed in the room. Clenching her fist, she gazes at her new and powerful fire skill. By increasing its power, the skill consumes a massive amount of mana in exchange. It's a perfect skill for her, matching her enormous mana reserve. Firing the attack, she launches a blast of fire at the dungeon boss. Seeing this, He cracks a smile, noticing the power of her attack. This is the power that will make Ichinos the future Scarlet Queen. Approaching the girl, he tells her she did a great job. Smiling, she admits she's also surprised by the result of her power. Then she thanks Rei, saying it was all thanks to him. After the battle, they observe the damage they've done to the cave ceiling. With the condition met, they can now finally participate in the A-rank exam. Determined, Rei declares that he'll pass the promotion test no matter what. On the day of the rank A exam, Reina explains that the test will begin. Arriving for the test, Rei and Ichinose prepare for the great challenge. With great determination, he focuses on passing the exam to become a mage. Walking down the hall, Ichinose tells them to do their best on the exam. In front of them, the examiner begins to explain how the combat test will work. Suddenly, a mocking voice says they didn't expect to see someone so incompetent there. With a mocking smile, the group's former leader calls out to Ichinose. Surprised, Ichinose stammers her former group leader's name. Stepping forward, Rei warns that she won't be fighting alone anymore. Unconcerned, the woman tells him to go right ahead. Turning away, she warns that she has much better team members this time. Then, she introduces Aono Yuri, guaranteeing they will never defeat her. Hearing the name, Rei is shocked when he recognizes who it is. Remembering his past life, he recalls that she cleared a difficult dungeon all by herself. After that achievement, Aono Yuri's name became famous everywhere. Approaching him, Aono Yuri studies him up close with curiosity. With a smile, she says he seems like an interesting person. Faced with her advance, he just sighs, not knowing how to react properly. Seeing this, Ichinose asks if something is wrong with Rei. Hearing the name, Aono Yuri immediately recognizes him as Kurosaki Rei. She remembers hearing that his brother, the Purple King, was defeated. Pointing at him, she asks if he was the one who defeated Kurosaki Kai. Realizing she knew, Ichino shouts and asks if the story is true. With a smile, she warns that even so, he won't be able to defeat her. Turning her back, she says he's no match for her. With a smile, he faces the girl, now even more motivated to win. On the training field, a golem is presented for the mage's test. Covered in a special rock, the golem would be used for training. Stepping forward, Kurosaki Rei is called to begin the test. Facing the golem, he prepares a red mana sphere in his hand. Seeing this, two men scoff at him for using fire magic, but Rei knows that normal fire wouldn't break through that tough armor. Charging at the golem, he combines two manas of very different colors. Then, his hand prepares to unleash the new and powerful ability. His fire spear strikes the large golem square in the chest. From the powerful impact, the golem's head explodes into many pieces. Completely destroyed, the golem collapses to the ground, and the official confirms its defeat. Shocked, they shout that the boy used a powerful dual-colored magic. Watching everything, Aono Yuri comments that he fused the two manas. After the attack, Rei takes a moment to catch his breath. Moving on to the next test, Ichinos prepares for the mana measurement. Mocking the girl, the former leader says she should be ashamed. She then places her hand on the crystal to begin the measurement. Suddenly, a huge amount of mana erupts around the machine. Completely shocked, everyone shouts in disbelief at the scene they are witnessing. Biting her finger, the woman says she must be cheating. Arriving at the final battle, the official announces that the matches will begin. In the first match, Ichinose Aya is called to face Isoyama Mio. Vowing to expose her lies, Isoyama glares at her with a very threatening smile. After the fight begins, she attacks with several ice needles. Flying at high speed, the ice needles rush toward Ichinose. Preparing her counterattack, she gathers a large amount of fire in her hands. Unleashing her attack, the fireball collides with the ice needles. On impact, the two attacks cancel each other out in the middle of the arena. Caught in the explosion, Isoyama screams from the force of the powerful impact. Surprised, she didn't expect Ichinose to have such a strong fire ability. Seeing her opponent retreat, Ichinose wonders what is happening. With her hands forward, she prepares to launch another fireball. Seeing the new attack, Isoyama gets scared and raises her hand to defend herself. Unleashing several attacks, she yells for her opponent to take them all. Shouting not to be underestimated, she creates a mana barrier to defend herself. Confident in her defense, she plans to wait for a chance to counterattack. Without stopping for a second, the fireballs keep hitting the barrier relentlessly. Seeing that the pressure isn't letting up, she begins to panic. Ichinose keeps attacking, and Isoyama screams, asking why she won't stop. From a distance, Rei watches and understands the strategy, an attack of attrition. Keeping up the pressure, Ichinose continues to fire her spells without showing any fatigue. The magic barrier wouldn't be enough to stop her. Her barrier finally shatters, and she screams from the impact of the magic. Unable to protect herself, she runs desperately to escape the debris. While trying to escape, a rock hits her hard on the head. Seeing this, Ichinose stops her attack, completely surprised by the outcome. Lying on the ground, she can't believe she was defeated like that. Raising his hand, the official shouts that the fight is more than over. He then declares that the great winner of the match is Ichinose Aya. Praising the good battle, Rei congratulates her, and she laughs in disbelief. Then, Ichinose wishes him good luck in the next and final match. Keeping a serious expression, he just confirms with a nod. Then, the official announces the match between Kurosaki Rei and Aono Yuri. Facing his opponent, he comments that she'll be his final match in the test. With a slight smile, he says this fight will definitely be interesting. Pointing at him, she asks why he's in the exam. She notes that he seems much more prepared than the other participants there. Without giving many details, he says he needs to do something, no matter what. Looking at her, he says that's why he can't stop. Lowering her head, she seems to ponder his words. She cracks a slight smile, seeming to like his answer. Releasing her mana, she warns him that she's quite strong. Wielding his sword, he says he knows that, but he'll win anyway. Surprised by his attitude, she remarks that he's truly interesting. Then, the official finally announces that the final battle may begin. Without wasting any time, she announces she's starting her attack. Under attack, he prepares to defend himself from dozens of blades. With his sword in hand, he begins to dodge and block the blades. Using mana conversion, he freely manipulates his energy. With focused eyes, he concentrates on using his ability at full power. Suddenly, a mana spear falls from the sky and hits the ground. With a smile, she congratulates him for dodging the attack. Announcing it's his turn, he charges toward her at high speed. Retreating, she says she won't let him do that so easily. He prepares to create a mana barrier with his hands. Seeing this, Aono Yuri stares at him in surprised silence. Dispelling the barrier, he seizes the chance to get closer. Getting close, he prepares an attack with his red fire mana. Shouting, he uses the opening to end the fight. Then, he launches a powerful fire spear at his opponent. To defend herself, she uses mana conversion and creates a barrier. On impact, the two powerful attacks clash in the middle of the arena. Barely dodging, she comments that his attack was a close call. With a smile, he realizes her defense is flawless. Watching the fight, Ichinose worries about Rei and the outcome of the battle. With her hand forward, she prepares for her next move. Suddenly, several energy blades appear all around the arena. Attacked from all sides, he runs to dodge the blades. Struggling to dodge, he says the situation is quite problematic. She then asks if he thinks he can win just by running around the arena. Completely surrounding him, she declares that it's now checkmate. With nowhere to run, he braces for the impact of the blades. Using body enhancement, he manages to dodge and block all the blows. With his increased strength and speed, he manages to escape her trap. Surprised, she realizes he also used body enhancement to escape. With a smile, she prepares to use the same ability. She remarks that it's the first time she's seen someone with 3 mana colors. Unleashing her power, she reveals she can also use body enhancement. Summoning a scythe, she declares she'll settle this fight once and for all. At high speed, she lunges toward him, ready to attack with everything she's got. Swinging the scythe from behind her, she surprises Rei with her attack speed. Their weapons crossing, the two clash in the middle of the battle arena. Impressed by his opponent, he notes she's much faster. Giving him no room, she continues to attack with a series of swift blows. With a final blow, she shatters the ground with the force of her scythe. Seeing her power, he prepares to finally play his trump card. Suddenly, he manages to get close to her with a very fast move. Grabbing her wrist, he uses his skill drain ability. Unconcerned, she says that's just a surface-level trick and won't work. Then, to her surprise, she sees her power being stolen by him. With her ability stolen, she feels her power draining away quickly. Seizing the opportunity, he prepares to end the fight once and for all. Landing a blow, he throws her far away with all his strength. Coughing, she recovers from the blow. Back on her feet, she says he was hiding his true strength the whole time. Unable to stay on her feet, she finally collapses to the ground, defeated. Declared the winner, the official announces the name Kurosaki Rei. The scene changes. She wakes up in an infirmary bed after the fight. Seeing she's awake, Rei tells her she's finally conscious. Admitting defeat, she says she never expected him to be so strong. With a smile, she asks if he came here to gloat about his victory. Being direct, he asks if she would mind joining their group. Completely shocked, she can only ask what he just said. Then Ichinose explains they need her strength for the difficult dungeons. After the explanation, she can't hold back a slight, mocking laugh. Continuing to laugh, she's amused by his unexpected proposal. Finding him interesting, she finally says she accepts his invitation. With a smile, she says it'll be more interesting if she follows him. With a handshake, Aono Yuri accepts the invitation to join the group. Just then, the entire room begins to shake very, very violently. Startled by the tremor, Ichinose yells, asking what's happening. Searching for an answer, Rei and Ichino's run to the nearest window. His expression changing, he has a terrible suspicion about the tremor. Elsewhere, Kronos finally breaks free from the chains that held him. He then announces with a smile that there's just a little more to go. After the tremor stops, everyone in the room tries to figure out what just happened. Then, Rei starts to reflect on the earthquake he just felt. He remembers that in the past, several tremors preceded the world's collapse. Basically, it was a sign that their time was running out. Even though it's difficult, he knows he has no other choice right now. With his back turned, he tells the two of them he has something to say. Surprised, Ichino exclaims that they need to conquer the Ikebukuro dungeon. She questions if they're going to try to conquer the most difficult dungeon by themselves. With a smile, Aono Yuri asks if this has to do with the earthquake. Confirming her suspicion, he says he has a bad feeling about the tremor. To him, it all feels like a prelude to something terrible. Shrugging, Aono Yuri says she's fine with whatever. Determined, Ichino says she'll do her best not to get in the way. With a smile, Rei thanks them both for their help and trust. With the team formed, he prepares for the next big mission. The next day, they go to the association to ask for a favor. Standing before Reina, they announce their plan to conquer the Ikebukuro dungeon. Arriving at the dungeon, they brace themselves for the greatest challenge of their lives. Excited, Aono Yuri says she's thrilled by the dungeon's difficulty. Ichinose then comments that it would be better if they had more heroes to help. With his back turned, Rei thinks it would be good if Oikawa were there. Before the regression, he was known as the best in Japan. With the dungeon on the verge of collapse, he knows he needs to be well prepared. Inside, a mysterious creature was just waiting for the right moment. If the collapse happens, the god Kronos will finally appear again. With his eyes focused, he knows he must prevent this at all costs. Calling out to the two girls, he gets ready to finally enter the dungeon. Interrupting him, Aono Yuri says she has a favor to ask first. With a smile, she asks him to call her by her first name too. Ichinose agrees, and they both ask him to be less formal. With a big smile, she says they're friends now. A slight smile forming, he agrees with her statement. Calling them by their first names, he declares that they will conquer the dungeon. Entering the dungeon, the group moves toward a large portal. Suddenly, he senses a presence approaching their group. Just then, a huge demonic creature emerges from the cave's shadows. A skull demon, the creature was level 71. Seeing the danger, he tells the two of them to prepare for a fight. They both confirm that they're ready to start the battle. With the monster shielded, they need to find a way to break its barrier. He then tells them they need to destroy the mana barrier first. Launching a fire spear, he hits the monster's shield. But even with the hit, the barrier doesn't seem to take any damage. Seizing the opportunity, he yells for them to attack with full force. At that moment, Yuri attacks from above, while Aya prepares her fire magic. With their combined attacks, the monster's barrier finally shatters completely. Enraged, the demon prepares to counterattack the group with all its might. Not missing the chance, Rei rushes forward to strike the monster with his sword. With a final blow, the demon is defeated and disintegrates in the cave. Leaving behind a crystal, the monster vanishes completely. With a smile, Aya shouts that they defeated the huge monster. Congratulating them, Rei says their timing on the attack was perfect. Curious, Yuri asks how he can use so many different skills. Not knowing how to explain, he just looks away for a second. He then reveals that he has an ability called Skill Drain. Surprised, the two wonder what this skill he mentioned could be. He explains that just by touching someone, he can steal their skills. Remembering their fight, Yuri realizes that's what happened during the exam. Saying he's already returned it, Rei and Yuri exchange a formal thank you. Shocked, Aya wonders if he can really do something like that. Recalling their conversation, Yuri is still processing the plan to conquer the Ikebukuro dungeon. Advancing through the cave, Aya follows the two with complete trust in her leader. With a determined expression, she prepares herself not to be a burden to the group. In a tough battle, the trio pushes forward, defeating every monster in their path. Arriving in a large cavern, Rei announces that the boss room is just ahead. Hearing a tremor, she asks if they'll really be okay against the boss. With a smile, Rei says their levels have gone up and victory is possible. During their journey, it becomes clear that the group's strength has grown with each battle. Clenching her fist, Aya gets ready to provide all the support she can. Suddenly, a massive tentacle erupts and slams into the ground right in front of her. Whirling around in shock, Rei and Yuri react to the surprise attack on their companion. The tentacle then wraps around Aya, trapping her tightly. Trapped by the monster, she is completely paralyzed, unable to react at all. As she's pulled away, Rei reaches out his hand while Yuri screams his name. Then, from the shadows, the dungeon boss reveals its form, the level 83 Reaper. Seeing the monster, Rei wonders why the boss isn't in the correct room. At that moment, A smile appears on Kronos' face as he watches everything from the shadows. With a smirk, Yuri asks if he doesn't think the situation is pretty bad. With a clenched fist, he yells that they have to save Aya. Switching to his lair, Kronos laughs, saying the monsters have been released. He then remarks that this is the limit of his current power. Before them, the monster says they will be the first victims of the opening. Shouting her name, Rei desperately asks if Aya is okay. The tentacle tightens its grip, beginning to crush her barrier. Trapped inside, she manages to answer that she's somehow all right. Not wanting to be dead weight, she keeps struggling to escape. Watching the scene, Rei realizes her barrier won't last much longer. Thinking of a way to save her, he needs to come up with a plan quickly. So, he asks Yuri to save Aya while he distracts the tentacles. With the plan set, the two of them advance together toward the big boss. Just then, one of the tentacles lunges forward to attack the pair with great speed. Leaping aside, Rei manages to dodge the attack that shatters the ground. Seeing the power of the blow, he understands he can't take a direct hit. Sliding across the ground, he evades the multiple tentacles coming his way. Caught by surprise, a tentacle attacks him from his blind spot. Trapped, Aya screams Rei's name, trying to warn him of the danger. With a mana hand, he manages to defend against the surprise attack. The mana hand grabs the tentacle and throws it aside. Landing safely, he remarks that the attack was a close call. With a smile, he gets ready to continue the fight against the boss. Announcing that the distraction was enough, Yuri prepares to strike. Leaping toward the monster, she says she's got the tentacle, but her strike is blocked by the monster's unexpected barrier. Shocked, Rei and Yuri react upon seeing the strengthening ability. The monster then uses an enhancement skill to protect itself. Thrown backward, she grunts from the force of the creature's blow. Worried, Rei asks if she's okay, and she says she is. He then asks if she doesn't find something strange about that monster. Thinking about the battle, he says he's never heard of a monster like this. Unable to understand, Rei realizes something very strange is happening here. At that moment, a smile appears on Kronos' face as he continues to manipulate everything from the shadows. Seeing there's no time, Rei braces himself to face another tentacle. All around them, several tentacles move in to attack from all sides. Trapped by the monster, Aya blames herself for the situation they're in. Remembering past battles, she laments always depending so much on Rei. Feeling too passive, she tells herself she has to do something. Even without knowing how, she tries to find a way to help in the fight. Seeing the situation, Yuri says things are looking really bad. Fighting constantly, he realizes everyone's mana is running out. Without mana, he regrets not being able to use his full power. Suddenly, he remembers a skill that could turn the tide. Shouting to Aya, he asks her to use her mana fusion on them. Confused, Aya questions the request, since the skill seemed useless. Yuri then asks about the skill, which consumes a large amount of mana. Fighting the monster, Rei remembers the mana fusion skill. Even though it was useless, a mage proved the skill could be a game changer. That mage was Aya herself, who proved it in his past life. Trapped, she says she never used the skill because she thought it was useless. But if Rei said so, she trusted him and wanted to try to help. Using mana fusion, she releases a wave of energy that hits everyone. With the skill, Rei and Yuri are enveloped by Aya's mana. Looking at her hand, Yuri is surprised to see her mana recovering. Mana fusion is a skill that shares the user's mana. A slight smile forming, Rei prepares for the next step of the plan. Impressed, Aya realizes she can share her mana with her companions, but even with their mana restored, they're still in a tough spot. She then understands that the mana barrier is draining her energy. With a new idea, she prepares to change their fighting strategy. Dispelling the barrier, she climbs onto the tentacles to face the monster up close. Confused, Yuri and Rei watch the girl standing on the tentacles. Surprised, he realizes she released the mana barrier so she could move. With the tentacles tightening around her, she screams and struggles to break free. Using explosive furnace, she attacks the monster with all her might. With a massive fiery explosion, the tentacles are forced to retreat. Increasing the skill's power, she uses the furnace to free herself. Leaving the rest to them, she falls unconscious after using all her power. From the impact, the monster's tentacles are severely burned by the fire. Calling out to Yuri, Rei gets ready to continue the battle against the boss. Together, the two of them charge forward to slice the massive monster's remaining tentacles. Seeing her determination, Yuri says they have no other choice now. Thanking Aya, she says they can now carry on with the fight. Seeing the two approach, The monster prepares to counterattack. With their weapons in hand, they slice through several tentacles at once. Saying they can clear a path, they advance together against the big boss. Charging forward with his blade, Rei unleashes a powerful attack against the opponent. With the mana restored by Aya, he manages to penetrate the creature's defense. Yuri says they're going to save Aya now, and Rei agrees with the plan. Up above, Ichinose Aya remains unconscious and in a dangerous situation. Just then, the gigantic monster reveals itself completely, surprising the two heroes. Leaping toward the creature, Rei tries to land a blow with his sword. Rei and Yuri then face the enormous monster that continues to block their path. Rei says they won't reach her this way, but Yuri tells him to leave it to her. Promising to clear a path, Yuri focuses to use her special ability. Seeing the staircase she created, he realizes he now has a chance. He thanks Yuri for her help and starts climbing quickly. Several tentacles suddenly appear, trying to block his path up the stairs. Planting his foot firmly on a step, he prepares to counter the surprise attack. He then yells for the tentacles not to dare get in his way. With a swift motion, he cuts down all the obstacles that appear before him. Reaching the top, he manages to get to where his companion was. At the last second, Rei manages to catch Ichinose Aya before she falls. After landing safely, he lays her on the ground to check on her. Worried about her, he asks Aya if she's feeling okay. Still recovering, she takes a deep breath, trying to catch her breath after the rescue. With a smile, she says this was exactly what she expected from him. Right behind them, Yuri runs up to join her two teammates. Yuri thanks her, saying she saved them all with her mana recovery. Looking at the girl, Yuri says she's truly very brave. Happy with the compliment, Aya thanks Yuri for her help and trust, but Rei realizes the fight isn't over yet, and Yuri agrees. Suddenly, the giant creature seems to become enraged by what happened. Then, the severed tentacles begin to regenerate completely. With great force, one of the tentacles comes down to attack the group of heroes. Seeing the regeneration, Rei remarks that the tentacles are back and what a pain it is. Reacting quickly, Yuri defends herself from a surprise attack by one of the tentacles. She then asks Rei what to do, saying the situation is only going to get worse. Calling out to Yuri, Rei tells her to leave the rest of the fight to him. After hearing his plan, she stares at him in silence for a brief moment. Yuri then says she'll leave it to him, since he seems to have a plan. He just nods as a giant sword falls from the sky and embeds itself in the ground. Leaping to a lower spot, he shouts that he's going to finish the monster. Seeing him advance without a weapon, Yuri questions Rei's strategy. The monster then attacks Rei with one of its huge regenerated tentacles. Even after the hit, he realizes the creature can still regenerate. To end the fight, he activates the overclock ability, doubling his power. Gathering energy in his hand, he prepares to use his strongest technique. With both hands charged, he declares that the battle ends now. He positions himself right in front of the monster to deliver the final attack. With a focused gaze, he prepares to unleash the power of the abyss. Launching himself toward the monster, he fires a powerful blast of energy. Known as the Abyss Flame, his technique surges forward with full force against the target. Scoring a direct hit, the energy explosion strikes the monster with full force. Maintaining the attack, he continues to release a stream of power against the enemy. After the blow, a huge hole is blown through the giant monster's body. Powerless, the creature's body collapses completely onto the cavern floor. After the battle, Rei turns and confidently adjusts his jacket. But elsewhere, Kronos watches the scene with a surprised expression. He says he never thought the Reaper would be defeated and questions their audacity. With a menacing look, he warns that the situation isn't over yet. A giant egg then appears, as a voice promises they won't leave alive. Aya celebrates, saying he did it, but Rei thanks them both for their help. Suddenly, the defeated monster's body begins to dissolve on the ground. A giant, shadowy hand then emerges from the puddle, threatening the trio of heroes. Realizing the imminent danger, Rei yells for everyone to be careful. From the ground, a shadowy hand emerges, forcing the trio to defend themselves. He realizes the strange thing is coming out of the defeated monster's body. Seeing the creature take form, he shouts for everyone to run immediately. As they fall, Aya asks what that thing is, but he says they just need to get out. Surrounded by darkness, they realize they managed to avoid the dungeon's collapse. With determination, he states there's no way they can be defeated in this place. Suddenly, the exit portal appears right in front of everyone. Running towards the exit, they try to escape the shadowy mass chasing them. Yuri grabs Aya, who looks back with a fearful expression. The situation worsens when he turns around and sees the shadow nearly upon them. Suddenly, someone yells for them to get out, and a golden barrier protects them. Surprised by the barrier, Aya tries to understand what's happening. Then a man asks if that wasn't a close call, standing next to Rei. Turning around, Rei faces the stranger, still trying to process what happened. The mysterious man then looks back at Rei and asks who he is. Before the trio, the mysterious man slowly dispels the protective barrier. With a smile, he remarks that was a close call. Thanking him, Aya asks who the man who just saved them is. Just then, Rei recognizes him, asking if he's the mage, Oikawa Hikaru. At the mention of his name, Aya is left completely shocked and speechless. Smiling, Oikawa seems pleased and asks if they really know who he is. Recalling their conversation, Aya remembers Rei mentioning Oikawa before the mission. He had explained that Oikawa was a much more powerful S-rank mage, and also revealed he was known as the Yellow King in his past life. Back in the present, Rei notes how strong his barrier skill was. Oikawa comments that the situation looked bad, but luckily he arrived in time. He explains that he was in another dungeon, but someone contacted him. As Rei looks confused, a flashback shows it was Hinata from the association. Changing the subject, Oikawa faces him with a much more serious look. Then he asks if he is Kurosaki Rei, the brother of the famous Purple King. Rei asks if Oikawa knows him, and he explains that he's heard of him. With a sincere smile, Rei thanks Oikawa for his help. Waving his hand, Oikawa says it's all right, and that it was nothing. He then congratulates Rei on doing a good job defeating the boss. The whole group then looks at the mana core left behind by the defeated monster. A moment later, a huge mana crystal drops to the ground, right in front of them. Picking up the stone, Oikawa remarks that the boss must have been quite strong given the size of it. He then offers the large crystal to Rei, congratulating him on his achievement. Surprised, Rei asks if he can really keep such a valuable item. With a smile, Oikawa says he's looking forward to his future accomplishments. Walking towards the exit, he comments that things are about to get more exciting. After he leaves, the trio stands in silence, holding the enormous crystal. The scene changes and the group returns to the main association building. Once inside, they walk through the building's entrance. Holding the mana stone, Aya comments that Oikawa is a very peculiar person. Watching the trio approach, Hinata says he seems pretty laid back. She then shouts Rei's name, and he turns toward her in surprise. Rushing over, she desperately asks if they're all really okay. She then explains that she was worried because they took so long to return from the dungeon. She continued her lecture, saying the danger level of that place was very high. Then she asks about their progress, and if they managed to conquer the entrance area. In response, he simply places the huge mana crystal on the counter. He informs her that they managed to conquer the entire dungeon. Completely shocked, Hinata and the other employees are left paralyzed by the news. This unexpected revelation causes a huge commotion throughout the association building. Elsewhere, some people find out that the Ikebukuro dungeon has been conquered. A boss then orders his employee to schedule a meeting with those responsible. With the conquest, Aya confirms she'll be able to pay for her sister's medical expenses. During an interview, she publicly thanks Rei for inviting her on the mission. Far away, Isoyama Mio and Aono Yuri watch Aya's interview on a large screen. Being informed of the news, Isoyama just scoffs at the situation. Angrily, she yells that it's a lie and can't be true. Walking down the street, Kurosaki Akai sees the news about his brother on a large screen. Looking at the image, he angrily curses his brother for the achievement. The news spreads, and everyone comments on how the colorless one has become a sensation. Others comment that those who mocked him before should apologize now. Someone even remarks how interesting it is that the weakest person conquered the dungeon. Seeing the news on his phone, Oikawa smiles and says it's just as he expected. Back in the present, Rei walks alone, thinking about everything that happened. Looking up, he confirms that he managed to prevent the dungeon's collapse, but he remembers he only succeeded because all his companions helped him. Clenching his fist, he seems to make an important decision about his future. With a determined look, he tells himself that he needs to get stronger. 3 days later, Hinata finds him at the association and calls out his name. She then tells him that everyone there is talking about him, which makes him feel awkward. He then asks Hinata what was so important that she had to tell him. With a serious expression, she reveals that the group has received a special request. Surprised, he questions if the request is for them, since they just became A rank. Hinata confirms, saying it's probably because of the Ikebukuro dungeon conquest. Remembering Oikawa, he reflects that this kind of request is very rare. Aya then says they're counting on his strength, but he disagrees with her statement. He then asks who made the request, but Hinata says it's a secret. Yuri suggests they accept the mission, since it doesn't seem suspicious, but Hinata adds that an S-rank mage will be accompanying the group. The next day, the trio is waiting while Aya wonders about their escort. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out to get the group's attention. Looking in the direction of the voice, they recognize the approaching mage. Arriving excitedly, Oikawa says they'll be working together to conquer the dungeon. Shocked, Rei and the girls shout Oikawa's name, unable to believe the situation. Now inside the new dungeon, the group explores the volcanic environment. Walking through the cave, Rei comments that he never thought Oikawa would be with them. Smiling, Oikawa reveals he already knew and just wanted to surprise them. He also explains that the whole world is paying attention to this joint mission. Aya calls him carefree, but Rei reminds her that he's still an S-rank mage. Rei then asks Oikawa about a complicated mechanism inside the dungeon. Oikawa confirms that the scouting team reported a large wall of fire. Worried about the obstacle, Aya asks how they're going to deal with it. With great confidence, he says his barrier ability nullifies fire. Rei remembers the previous dungeon. Observing Oikawa's friendly demeanor, promising to protect them, he tells them to believe it when they see him in action. Suddenly, Rei turns around, sensing a strange sound approaching them. Emerging from the shadows, a swarm of insect monsters flies toward the group. Warning them about the wave of monsters, Rei yells for everyone to get ready to fight. With a focused gaze, he waits to see the true strength of an S-rank mage. Seeing Oikawa crouched on the ground, wishing them good luck, Rei shouts his name in shock. Trembling in fear, Oikawa admits he's terrible against insects, leaving Rei completely irritated. Aya then reminds him of his promise, but Rei says there's no other way and they have to fight. Seeing the monsters approaching quickly, he warns everyone that they're coming. Preparing an attack, Aya says to go all out and launches her fireball. Hitting the insects, Yuri comments that this is nothing compared to what they've faced before. With a confident smile, Yuri prepares herself and uses mana conversion to attack. Using her ability, she slices one of the flying monsters in half with precision. Her powerful attack continues, taking down several other enemies flying towards them. Saying he'll finish the rest, Rei concentrates energy in his hand for the strike. He then fires his flame spear, hitting the remaining monsters all at once. From a distance, Oikawa is impressed by what he sees and praises their attack. Celebrating the victory, Aya says they did it, and Rei confirms their success. Coming closer, Oikawa says that was amazing and thanks them for saving him. Embarrassed, he explains that he hates insects, leaving the whole group speechless. With wide eyes, Rei notices a new threat approaching quickly. He then shouts for Oikawa as 3 shadow wolves leap to attack the mage. Unfazed, Oikawa simply comments that the monsters seem quite lively. With a gesture, he creates a barrier on the ground, trapping the wolves in place. Then one of the wolves is hit head-on by a beam of light. Several beams of light strike the 3 monsters trapped inside the magic circle. Smiling, he says he's got them and activates his skill, Square Box. A cube then forms, capturing the enemies trapped in the snare. After shrinking, the cube falls to the ground, completely finishing the attack. Rei and the girls are paralyzed, unable to believe what they just witnessed. Holding the cube, Oikawa says that surprise attacks are disgusting, as Rei watches. Still surprised, Rei asks Oikawa about the ability he just used. He explains that the skill is called Square Box, one of his barriers. He continues, saying it can neutralize enemies, but not very large ones. With a smile, Oikawa asks the group if the ability isn't convenient. Impressed, Rei agrees and says he's heard of this incredible ability before. Oikawa then announces that they can now continue exploring the dungeon. Walking together, the group witnesses the true strength of an S-rank mage. Soon, they arrive at the location and Oikawa confirms that it's the wall of fire. Aya complains about the heat, while Rei says they have to get through it no matter what. With a confident smile, Oikawa tells them they can leave everything to him. He then uses his ability, creating a huge pyramid-shaped barrier. Gesturing towards the path, he tells them that everyone can now pass through safely. As they cross the path, Rei comments that it's incredible, and Oikawa agrees with him. Further ahead, they find a hole, and Rei informs them it's the boss room. Rei then asks if everyone is ready, receiving a positive confirmation from the group. With a determined smile, he calls for the whole group to finally enter the room. Oikawa then watches the trio from behind as they prepare to enter the room. With a serious look, he waits to see the performance of the young Kurosaki Rei. Entering the room, the group finds themselves in an environment of lava and rock. Rei then comments that the boss room is incredibly hot. Suddenly, a fiery paw emerges from the shadows, heralding the monster's arrival. A level 68 firewolf steps out of the darkness, appearing before the group. Drawing his sword, Rei remarks that the dungeon boss is quite intimidating. The giant wolf then lets out a powerful howl, preparing for battle. A huge fireball is launched, and Rei yells for everyone to use their barriers. But Oikawa calmly says that's not necessary at all. The monster then fires a powerful blast of fire toward the group. The blast is blocked by a barrier, protecting everyone from the monster's attack. Impressed by the scene, Rei recognizes Oikawa's barrier skill in action. Explaining the plan, Oikawa says he will hold off the attack so they can advance. The trio understands and confirms they will take care of the dungeon boss. With a focused gaze, he knows the barrier can be destroyed by physical attacks. Gripping his sword, he prepares to strike with the Abyss Flame. Analyzing the monster, he knows its movements are fast and dangerous. With a firm step, he readies himself to start the fight against the monster. Moving forward, he says he'll go first and will use other spells for the fight. He then asks the two of them to find an opening and attack, and they agree. Activating extreme body enhancement, he prepares to charge the boss. His speed increases dramatically, leaving a trail of dust across the cavern floor. Leaping toward the monster, he closes in for the first strike of the fight. The firewolf then strikes with its claws, trying to hit him squarely. Dodging the blow, he leaps over the creature, drawing its attention. While in the air, he strikes the monster's back with his sword. Taking advantage of the distraction, Aya prepares her stone projectile spell to attack. Meanwhile, Yuri uses mana conversion, and the two launch their attacks together. Flying at high speed, the stone and mana projectiles head toward the boss. Hitting their mark, the combined attacks strike the fire monster head-on. The impact throws the monster back, but it quickly recovers. Realizing the monster's strength, he knows the fight will be difficult and exhausting. Sweating profusely, he feels the immense heat of the room affecting his body. Oikawa realizes that at this pace, their physical strength will be depleted. He then advances, while Oikawa wonders what his next move will be. With a smile, he confirms that he has a plan to defeat the boss. Shouting to Aya and Yuri, he tells them to aim for the monster's feet. Yuri understands his plan, while Aya prepares to attack the enemy. Yuri then says she and Aya will work together, and her partner agrees. Focusing her energy, Yuri prepares several mana blades for her attack. Her blades strike the wolf's feet, pinning it in place. To increase her power, Aya concentrates her mana and prepares a special skill. She then fires a massive stone projectile at the dungeon boss. The monster tries to defend itself but is hit squarely by the projectile. With the impact of the spell, the firewolf loses its balance and falls. Seeing the perfect opportunity, he shouts that now is the time. Taking advantage of the monster being airborne, he prepares his attack. With his sword stuck in the ground, he focuses all his energy into it. He then begins to coat his sword with a thick layer of ice. Watching the scene, Oikawa realizes Rei's strategy for the final attack. The fire monster is then struck by the icy power of the sword. Charging with the sword in hand, he yells for the monster to swallow this. Striking the wolf head-on, he delivers a powerful blow and freezes the enemy. After the attack, the frozen monster falls to the ground and shatters. He then lands safely on the ground, having defeated the dungeon boss. After the battle, the monster's remains begin to evaporate completely into the air. Yuri celebrates, saying he did it, but Rei thanks them both for their help. Oikawa then praises the team, saying their teamwork was wonderful. He then stares at Rei mysteriously, thinking about his performance. Oikawa realizes that Rei has yet to show his true power in battle. After the mission, Rei says they can now go back and report. Oikawa then asks him to wait, holding the cube that captured the monsters. He then reveals that he wants to test him and shows him the box from before. Not understanding the proposal, Rei asks what this surprise test is about. Oikawa explains that the box can also be used as a training method. Saying he wants to see his power, he asks Rei to defeat the sealed monsters. He guarantees he'll stop it if things get dangerous, but the choice is his. Even without understanding the reason, Rei clenches his fist and thinks about the offer. Wanting to gain more experience, he says he understands and accepts the challenge. Alone in the cave, he positions himself in front of the floating cube. Announcing he's starting, Oikawa enlarges the cube, and Rei nods in confirmation. From inside the box, several dark shadows begin to emerge and manifest. Watching the creature's form, he wonders what that black shadow is. Oikawa explains that the monster changes depending on the opponent's fears and experiences. Slowly, the shadow begins to take the shape of a very familiar figure. The creature then reveals itself, taking on the appearance of his past self. Emerging from the shadows, the figure of Kronos is finally revealed completely. Impressed by the scene, Oikawa says that Rei still has something hidden inside him. Recognizing the figure, he faces his fearsome and powerful past self. Before him, the figure of Kronos manifests for Oikawa's test. A memory of a mysterious tower suddenly surfaces in Kurosaki Rei's mind. He then recalls Kronos' face from that time in his past. Aya comments that the shadow has become a humanoid, but not an ordinary monster. Oikawa explains that the monster takes the form of its opponent's greatest fear. Seeing his reaction, Oikawa asks if Rei has ever fought against it before. Rei knows it's not the real Kronos, but its aura is still intimidating. The memory of Kronos inviting him to play still haunts him deeply. Standing still, The monster regenerates a wound on its arm before the fight begins. With a swift move, it lunges forward to strike the first blow. Saying he has no choice, he leaps to attack the manifestation of Kronos. The monster then blocks Ray's sword with an energy spear. Despite the block, he realizes he's no longer intimidated by the figure. He then backs away and unleashes a powerful sword strike against his opponent. But the Kronos manifestation remains motionless, taking no damage from the attack. Seeing the opponent's power, he is completely shocked. The monster's eye then focuses on him, preparing a swift, invisible attack. Dodging at the last second, he throws himself aside to escape the blow. The Kronos manifestation just watches him, noting his agility. The group comments on the shockwave, but Oikawa notices that Ray managed to dodge. Recognizing the move, he knows he can now dodge the same attack. Creating an ice sword, he announces that it's now his turn to attack. With the sword in hand, he charges towards the Kronos manifestation, shouting with all his might. He prepares for the finishing blow. Kronos just stares at him with a slight smile, not moving an inch. Seeing his attack stopped, he is completely shocked. With just one hand, Kronos catches the blade and nullifies the entire attack. Using its spear, it attacks Ray and throws him far away. Desperate, Aya screams Ray's name, fearing the worst. Lying on the ground, he wonders how his attack was so completely nullified. Worried, Yuri says it's getting dangerous and that this is too much for him. At this, Oikawa decides he will retrieve the shadow back into the box. Reaching out, he tries to use his ability, but nothing happens to the monster. Yuri rushes him, but he says he's trying his best. He then reveals that the shadow is resisting his containment power. Seeing the situation, everyone is shocked and unsure of what to do next. Annoyed, Oikawa says this is strange and has never happened to him before. With a smile, the Kronos manifestation asks what kind of monster he is. Yuri says it's not the time for that, and the two girls run to help Ray. Getting closer, she says they will also fight alongside Kurosaki Ray. Desperate, he yells for them to wait, warning that the thing is too dangerous. Ignoring his warning, the two prepare their abilities to attack the Kronos manifestation. Unleashing their spells, they try to hit the monster with a powerful combined attack. Dodging the attacks, Kronos swiftly moves towards Ano Yuri. With no time to react, she freezes as the monster closes in. The monster then unleashes a powerful blow, sending Yuri flying far away. Seeing this, Ray screams both their names, worried about what happened. With a serious look, Oikawa apologizes for how things turned out. Vowing to stop the monster, he prepares to use one of his abilities. Using the skill, Hammer of Resistance, he tries to trap the Kronos manifestation. Seeing that the ability worked, he prepares to finish the monster off, but the Kronos manifestation just smiles, unfazed by the containment. The monster then breaks free from the prison, shattering the barrier with ease. Ray and Oikawa are shocked, saying it's impossible to break that skill. Looking at the scene, Ray realizes the situation is bad for everyone. With a focused gaze, he begins to analyze the battle. He realizes the shadow is using an ability from his old memories. Suddenly, he gets an idea on how to deal with the enemy. Asking Oikawa to leave it to him, Ray says he has a plan. With determination, he knows he must move forward and not hesitate anymore. Advancing again, he prepares for a new attack against the opponent. He realizes the shadow changed its appearance because of a specific ability. Then Kronos attacks with its spear, throwing the boy back with great force. As he stumbles back, he yells that he's going to steal the shadow manifestation's ability. Using Ability Drain, he tries to absorb his opponent's power. Reaching out his hand, he begins the process of extracting the creature's skill. Feeling the extraction, Kronos clutches its chest, reacting to the power. With a furious look, the creature glares at him as its ability is stolen. Then the Kronos manifestation screams and begins to completely fall apart. After the scream, the monster vanishes completely, leaving only dust behind. From a distance, Oikawa and the girls watch the battle's outcome, completely surprised. Shocked by the scene, Oikawa wonders what kind of ability that was. After the fight, Oikawa stares at Ray, trying to understand who he really is. 3 days later, two people kneel before a throne in a grand hall. Kneeling, Yuri presents the report on the incident that occurred in the dungeon. Seated on the throne, the man addresses her, calling her his Blue King. In a hallway, Yuri waits for someone to arrive. Turning around, she tells the person they're quite late for their meeting. Smiling, Oikawa apologizes for keeping her waiting so long. As they walk, Yuri complains that she was almost killed because of him earlier. She says he's forgiven, and a memory shows Ray forgiving the mage. Oikawa says that Ray is incredible and much better than the report suggested. Reaching a door, he wonders if Ray will ignore him or not. Just then, the door opens, revealing the throne room right behind it. Thanking them for waiting, They prepare to enter and give their final report. With a smile, the man on the throne says they've finally arrived. He reveals himself as Hojo Itsuki, the Blue King, and congratulates them. Hojo apologizes for only meeting them now, but Oikawa tells him not to worry. The Blue King explains that he was exploring dungeons in 10 different countries. With his hands on his face, he complains that the association heads are strict. At that moment, Oikawa remembers that the kings were summoned for a special purpose. He then explains that the dungeon's difficulty was the same as theirs. Sitting down, Yuri explains that there are 10 dungeons of the same difficulty scattered across the world. Smiling, the Blue King says that, as expected, he's a true monster. Changing the subject, he says they will now get to important business. The king asks them to tell him everything about the young man named Kurosaki Rei. Yuri and Oikawa look at each other, and she prepares to begin her report. After listening, the king says it's incredible, and that he's also surprised. Oikawa then says that Rei might be even stronger than him. The king comments that his combat skills are excellent and unique. Yuri explains that the truth is much more complex and difficult to tell. Intrigued by the young mage, he says his interest has now been piqued. Then he asks a favor of the two people in front of him. Changing scenes, the feet of two people step out of an elevator. Rei then comments that they did well in today's dungeon conquest. He asks about Yuri, and Aya explains that she had an appointment. Running towards them, Hinata shouts Rei's name to get his attention. He asks what happened, and Aya wonders what he's gotten himself into. Not understanding, he asks Hinata why she's in such a hurry. She then reveals that he has been summoned by the Blue King for a meeting. Walking down the hall, he and Aya follow Hinata to the throne room. Arriving at the location, the Blue King thanks them for coming. Seeing the man on the throne, he's shocked to recognize who he is. Hojo Itsuki, the Blue King, asks if he is Kurosaki Rei, confirming his identity. He then remembers that the Blue King was known as an emperor. He also remembers admiring him and following his great achievements in the past. His phrase, "The strong must guide the weak," greatly inspired him. Because of that, he wanted to become a great person like the Blue King. But he recalls that the Blue King lost his life in a battle. His death occurred while he was protecting millions of civilians during an evacuation. Back in the present, he wonders why the Blue King has summoned him. Coming from behind, a voice says they are about to reveal a great secret to him. Turning around, he sees Yuri and is surprised by her unexpected appearance. He then questions the presence of Oikawa and Yuri in such an important place. The Blue King explains that they are both members of the Apostles of the Holy Staff. Rei then remembers having heard of this elite group before. Oikawa reveals that it was the Blue King who sent him on the mission. Rei then understands the test was meant to gauge his strength. Yuri says she joined the group because the mission seemed fun. With a smile, the Blue King says he's interested in his potential. He continues, explaining that he needs to see his humanity first. Then, the Blue King calls him by name and asks a very important question. He asks what he truly desires as a mage in his life. With a focused gaze, Rei begins to think about his answer to the question. He remembers his dream was to become a mage so he could admire the king. But he remembers how his younger brother despised him for being weak. The scene changes to a meeting room where a group of mages are gathered. Arriving on site, Rei observes the elite mages of the Blue King. One of the group members gives him a smug look, seeing the newcomer. With his feet on the table, he says he expected more from the new member. With disdain, he asks if Rei isn't just some random kid. One of the female mages points out he's the same age as him and tells him to shut up. Another member laughs, telling him not to provoke people for no reason. Pouting, he says he gets it and won't do it again. Oikawa then asks them to sit down so he can explain the group's new mission. After the explanation, a display shows 2 dungeons they need to conquer. Oikawa explains that they'll split into 2 teams for the 2 dungeons. He then begins to announce the names of the members for each team. Yashiro, Shiroi, and Azuma are assigned to the first high-level dungeon. Then he announces that Rei and his group will go to the Tama dungeon. To everyone's surprise, he says that Kurahashi will also go with Rei's group. Annoyed, Kurahashi asks why he's on a team with these people. Yuri asks if he's unhappy, and he confirms that he's not happy about it at all. Oikawa explains that Rei is skilled and possesses many different mana colors. Kurahashi says that means nothing, and that his brother was the same. Mockingly, he asks if Rei hasn't heard, calling it a blessing. He reveals that Kai was a member of the Apostles, but he was nothing compared to them. Rei then realizes how they see his younger brother now. Kurahashi says that having many mana colors is an illusion and doesn't prove strength. He continues, saying the dungeon clear was all thanks to Oikawa. With a look of contempt, he says the weak should know their place. Angered, Aya shouts that Rei isn't weak and that they'll see. Seeing her reaction, Rei just says her name, surprised that she's defending him. Staring at Aya, Kurahashi is left speechless by her confrontation. With his arms crossed, he says, "Fine, I'll do it. Oikawa then announces the groups will remain the same and asks them to do their best. He then calls Kurahashi and sends him on the mission with the group. He adds that he should witness Rei's true power for himself. With a smirk, Kurahashi says there's no need to spell it out, he'll see. As they leave, Rei knows he needs to show his strength, but that alone isn't enough. To face Kronos, he realizes he needs more strong companions by his side. He then glares at Kurahashi, knowing his words are harsh and demeaning. Even so, he hopes they can get along during the mission. The scene changes again, with the group arriving at the Tama dungeon entrance at sunset. Right at the entrance, they are greeted by a horde of monsters ready to attack. Seeing the enemies, Rei comments that they've arrived right on time. He tries to suggest they work together, but Kurahashi mockingly cuts him off. With his fists charged, he prepares to use his explosion ability. Charging forward alone, he attacks the horde of monsters with his fiery fists. With an explosion, he slams the ground, hitting several enemies at once. His assault continues, defeating all the monsters with a series of powerful blows. Impressed, Aya comments on the red mana and his incredible attack power. After defeating the monsters, Kurahashi laughs and gives Rei a smug look. With a smile, he says he bets Rei can't do the same. Leaping away, he declares he's gonna hunt all the monsters by himself now. Seeing his attitude, Rei and the two girls just laugh at the situation. Turning to them, he apologizes for his new companion's behavior. With a determined smile, he says, "I'm not gonna lose to that guy." He then rushes forward, and the girls try to stop him from going after Kurahashi. Yuri just says to let the boys do their thing and relax. Charging forward, he attacks one of the monsters with a swift sword strike. Kurahashi praises his move, and Rei thanks his companion for the compliment. The two then start fighting the monsters, trying to one-up each other. Seeing the mess, Aya comments that the situation is getting completely out of hand. Surprisingly, she notices that Rei can keep up with Kurahashi's pace in battle. Yuri explains that Kurahashi is an idiot and not a team player. Yuri continues, saying that Kurahashi's ability is special and one of a kind. Aya then reveals that he holds the title of the man who's killed the most monsters, but she's stunned to see that Rei can match his pace. With a smile, Yuri praises Rei, saying he's truly amazing. After clearing the area, the group reaches the boss room door. Shocked, Aya comments that they got here in just 10 minutes. Clenching his fist, Rei realizes the competition made him use more of his power. He remembers how weak he used to be and sees how much he's grown. Before the door, he prepares to face the dungeon boss. Entering the room, the group advances to start the battle. Rei tells them to focus, and Kurahashi tells them to stay out of his way. Suddenly, Rei notices something strange on the ceiling of the boss room. From above, a floating monster with a giant eye appears before the group. Facing the enemy, Kurosaki Rei remarks that they've finally reached the dungeon boss. Suddenly, a blur zips past him at incredible speed, leaving him completely stunned. Just then, they realize the defeated monsters from outside are being pulled in. One of the monsters is violently dragged to the center of the room. With its mouth wide open, the central creature devours the bodies of the other monsters. The team can only watch as the bizarre absorption process unfolds right before their eyes. After absorbing everything, the monster reveals its final form, a level 27 chimera. Just moments before, the creature on the floor looked like just a puddle with an eye. Launching a part of itself, the creature lunges toward a target. Now on its feet, the boss glares at the group that invaded its dark domain. Ichino's Aya then yells that the monster absorbed the other creatures to get stronger. Kurosaki Rei concludes that it has grown stronger, something he's never seen before. He adds that he's never seen anything like it, not even before he regressed. Warned to be careful, Kurahashi says he won't be intimidated by this. As Rei yells for him to stop, Kurahashi charges forward, saying the first to strike wins. Shouting for the monster to eat this, Kurahashi rushes in with an energy-filled punch. He then lands a direct hit on the creature, causing a massive impact. Watching from a distance, Ichino's Aya asks if he managed to finish the boss with that blow. Kurahashi, however, is shocked to realize something didn't go as planned. He realizes the monster blocked his attack, using one of its arms to defend itself. Immediately, the creature uses its other arm to launch a direct counterattack. Realizing the danger, Kurahashi braces for the hit with no way to escape. To save him, Kurosaki Rei activates his skill, declaring he'll use Mana Hand. With his power, he intercepts the monster's arm and pushes Kurahashi out of harm's way. Coming closer, Rei asks if his comrade is okay after being saved. Kurahashi replies that he won't lose, admitting he made the biggest mistake of his life. At that moment, the creature looks at Rei, clutching its injured arm. Suddenly, the monster's arm is completely torn off in a surprise attack. Kurosaki Rei watches the scene unfold, surprised by what he just saw. In place of the lost limb, the creature's shoulder already begins to regenerate. With its arm fully regenerated, The monster prepares for its next move. Kurahashi notices and comments that the creature managed to heal from the previous attack. Gathering power, the monster's eye begins to glow intensely. Sensing the danger, Kurosaki Rei warns everyone that something big is coming. Yelling for everyone to dodge, he jumps as the creature fires a blast of energy. Fired at full power, the beam tears through the hall, destroying everything in its path. Trying to escape the blast, the entire team needs to scatter as fast as possible. Hitting the ground, the attack causes an explosion that engulfs the entire arena. Thrown back, Ichino screams while Rei defends himself with his sword. Fallen and injured, she tries to recover from the massive impact of the enemy's attack. After the smoke clears, the group finds themselves scattered across a huge crater. Startled, Kurahashi wonders what kind of firepower that was. Watching the creature, Rei notices that it doesn't seem able to fire in succession. Then, Oiki gets up and says if that's the case, now it's their turn. He charges forward and launches his counterattack at the stationary monster. Even when hit by Oiki's attack, the monster manages to defend itself with its arms. Oiki then remarks that the creature is tough, saying it's amazing Kurahashi managed to burn it. Just then, Kurahashi warns that the situation is bad, as the monster is about to fire again. Rei understands he needs to aim for the body, but its arms block any weak attacks. Getting an idea, he turns to Ichinose Aya and calls her over to execute a plan. He asks if she can use mana fusion on Kurahashi, which surprises her. Shouting, "Yes!" Rei confirms the plan, and she agrees, activating the skill. The spell called Mana Fusion then envelops Kurahashi, who looks on in confusion. Feeling the power, he shouts, wondering what kind of insane mana this is. Rei warns that they don't have much time and tells him to attack the main body. Replying that he knows, Kurahashi leaps with all his might toward the monster's core. Closing in on the target, he prepares the final punch to end the fight. Yelling for the monster to eat his attack, he unleashes the blow with full force. His fist strikes the core dead on, releasing destructive energy on impact. Seeing the explosion, Ichinos is startled, while Oike says that this must be the end. Holding his pose, Kurahashi watches the result of his attack with complete confidence. He keeps pressing against the creature's core, which begins to crack under the force. Even damaged, the monster's core charges with energy for another imminent attack. Seeing this, Oike screams in desperation, warning everyone that the laser is coming again. Kurahashi then realizes, frustrated, that not even his strongest attack was enough. Just then, Rei passes by him and says the path was well prepared. He then gets into position and unleashes a powerful dark energy toward the monster. Kurahashi stares at him, completely shocked by the totally unexpected display of power. He wonders what kind of dark mana Rei is using. Rei then launches his sphere of dark energy at the dungeon boss. His attack collides directly with the laser the creature had just fired. The skill, called Abyss Flame, completely consumes the monster's power in seconds. Impressed, Kurahashi asks what kind of insane skill that was. As the dust settles, Rei stands with his back to Kurahashi, who watches him. He then gives a slight smile, finally ending the difficult fight against the monster. Kurahashi smiles, concluding that this guy is truly on a whole other level. The scene changes. In the middle of the city, Kurosaki Rei's image appears on a jumbotron. Announcing his latest achievement, the news reports that he has cleared another difficult dungeon. Watching the broadcast, Goto remarks that Kurosaki Rei has conquered another dungeon again. Nearby, a girl says he's really amazing and so cool. Laughing, Goto says that meanwhile, his brother's situation is much worse. Just then, Kurosaki Akai appears right behind them, overhearing the entire conversation. He then turns his head with a hostile expression, clicking his tongue. Elsewhere, the group leader congratulates everyone on conquering the dungeons. Hojo Itsuki comments that the Tama dungeon was tough, and Rei confirms the discovery. Laughing, Azuma says he heard it was a strong monster, and that he should have gone. Then, Oikawa asks Kurahashi for his opinion on Rei after the mission. He answers a bit awkwardly, saying the kid's not half bad. Oikawa then comments that the strategy Rei used was very good. Shiroi teases him, saying that he used to look down on him, but now he seems to have backed off. Embarrassed, he scratches his head and starts trying to explain himself. Pointing at Rei, he apologizes for underestimating him and finally admits his strength. Silently, Rei just listens to the apology from his teammate. With a smile, he replies that Kurahashi helped him too, so there's no need to apologize. Kurahashi is completely surprised and speechless after hearing that. Shouting in embarrassment, he says he wasn't happy with the praise and did everything himself. Watching the scene, the other group members comment that he's a tsundere. Pleased, Hojo Itsuki says he's glad the two of them have become friends. Turning to Rei, he assures him that from now on, no one else will complain. Then, Hojo asks him to take an object, making Rei curious about what it was. He then explains that it's the symbol of the apostles of the Holy Staff. Introducing himself as the Blue King, he officially welcomes Kurosaki Rei. Hojo continues, saying that Rei can go with his group, as Yuri would agree. With a smile, he asks him to say once more that they will fight together. Clutching the necklace in his hand, Rei finally accepts the offer he just received. Agreeing to everything, he shakes Hojo's hand and says the pleasure is his. With a confident smile, Kurosaki Rei accepts the new alliance that has been formed. Meanwhile, Hojo Itsuki also smiles, pleased with the outcome of their conversation. Impressed, Ichino says that Rei has been acknowledged by one of the strongest mages. Kurahashi then says there's no helping it, and that he'll teach him well now. Being teased by Oike, he shouts irritably for her to shut up. Pleased, Hojo comments that it was worth putting the two of them on the same team. Oikawa Hikaru then approaches Hojo to talk about their plan. He explains that Kurahashi would be against it, but Oikawa praises the Blue King's cleverness. Aono Yuri then comments that it's good to see everything went as planned. Hojo then says he'd like to make a suggestion, making Kurosaki Rei curious. Extending a hand to him, Hojo begins to make a completely unexpected proposal. He then asks if Rei would like to acquire the title of Black King. Not understanding the offer, Kurosaki Rei freezes, speechless. The scene changes. Kurosaki Akai appears, breathless, in a dark and dangerous cave. He then realizes his group has been completely surrounded by flying monsters. Under attack, a teammate yells for Kai to use his skill called Overclock. Extending his hand, he prepares to use some kind of power. Before him, the hooded enemies await the group's next move. Angrily, he clicks his tongue, clearly irritated by the battle situation. Just then, another member shouts that Kai can't use that skill anymore. Ignoring them, Kai charges forward and attacks the enemies with everything he's got. After the battle, his exhausted teammates say they somehow managed to win. Asking why they're standing around, Kai orders them to keep moving through the dungeon. His partner says they've been there for 5 days, but Kai tells him to shut up. Turning his back, he just repeats for the group to keep moving without complaining. Worried, the teammate watches Kai walk away alone through the dark cave. He then asks if it's right to follow their leader, but the other one yells at him. His friend replies that they need to support him through this difficult time. No questions asked. Far from them, Kai feels a pain and curses under his breath in pure frustration. He goes on, saying he needs to conquer this dungeon as quickly as possible. In a flashback, Kurosaki Akai was walking down the street with a sour expression. When approached by a reporter, he immediately refuses, saying he's not giving an interview. She then explains she just wanted to get his opinion on his older brother. Mentioning the rumors, she also asks what he thinks about the Blue King. Angrily, he remembers the rumor that his brother was acknowledged by Hojo. In his memory, Hojo was always talking about the importance of teamwork. Back in the dungeon, he runs, saying that everyone there despises him unfairly. Meanwhile, in a shadowy place, a mysterious entity slowly awakens. With a smile, Kronos says he's finally found a very interesting toy. With the emergence of dungeons, the entire world underwent a great transformation. In this new era, powerful mages began to gain immense social status and power. That moment became a major turning point for Kurosaki Akai. During his aptitude test, he discovered he possessed rare dual-colored mana. Realizing he was a rare case, he also noticed he had a special ability. With a smile, he found this new situation quite satisfying. Entering the classroom, he began to watch everyone with an air of superiority. At first, even the teachers seemed to treat him differently than the others. A teacher yelled at him, scolding him in front of the whole class. But afterward, the same teacher gave an awkward smile, trying to explain his attitude. Seeing this, Akai smirked at the change in treatment he had just received. In the hallways, students who once avoided him now watched with curiosity. Soon after, these same students started to flatter and follow him. With a dark smirk, he reveled in his new social status. Even his parents, who used to ignore him, began to treat him differently. As the youngest member, he joined the elite apostles of the Holy Staff, but he ended up leaving the group, claiming everyone had treated him rudely. This just showed they didn't recognize the extent of his true abilities. At home, however, the only person who treated him just the same as before was his brother, Kurosaki Rei. Back then, Rei had no talent and was much weaker than him, so he felt superior for being clearly stronger than his brother. With a determined look, Rei seemed to say that one day he would catch up. His younger brother's attitude filled him with rage and frustration. To him, Rei had no right to look at him as if they were equals in power. That's why Akai wanted to prove his superiority to that idiot at all costs. By showing he was the strongest, he wanted to make it clear they lived in different worlds. He then threw him to the ground, stepping on his body without any pity. However, something completely unexpected was about to happen. Thrown far away, the two brothers were caught off guard by an unknown force. Back in the present, Akai says the past doesn't matter, because he is a king. Walking down the street, he mutters that he can't just stand around doing nothing. Suddenly, Kurahashi appears and greets him, making Akai visibly irritated. Coming closer, Kurahashi says he looks quite upset and calls him by name. He then recalls that the last time they saw each other was when Akai was kicked out. Angrily, Akai replies that he asked to leave that group of mages himself. He continues, saying that despite his words, the other man acted like his direct boss. Kurahashi replies that the guy was just jealous, and he doesn't want people like that around. Akai then provokes him, saying he heard Rei joined his team. He then claims Rei is dead weight and just a simple porter. As he's saying Rei is trash, Kurahashi cuts him off mid-sentence. With a serious look, Kurahashi tells him to shut up for a moment. Kurahashi warns him that his opinion doesn't matter because Rei's ability is real. Shouting that it's nonsense, Akai lunges at him, declaring he is the Purple King. He finishes, yelling angrily to never compare him to that guy again. With a smirk, Kurahashi says it seems he knows absolutely nothing. He then reveals that Rei was recommended to become a king by the Blue King himself. Shocked by the news, Akai wonders if that guy will be his equal. Kurahashi explains that Rei hasn't answered yet and isn't obsessed with titles. Laughing in his face, Kurahashi says that Rei is already much stronger than him. To him, Rei is far more suited to be a king than Akai is. With a provoking smile, he asks if that isn't true, calling him the Purple King. In his mind, Akai remembers seeing his brother running away from him. He reaches out his arm, trying to grab him, but the distance between them only grows. The image shows Rei running toward the light, while Akai tries to pull him back. Back in reality, his companions arrive and call out to him, breaking his reverie. They report that the items have been restocked, and preparations for tomorrow are complete. Cutting them off, Akai says they'll run one more dungeon today. Turning his back, he starts walking away as his team begs him to wait. Completely ignoring their calls, he keeps walking, determined not to stop. With a furious look, Kurosaki Akai screams that he will never admit it. In the cave, the team suggests they wait, but Akai yells for everyone to shut up. Entering the room, he declares he is the strongest, and he will prove it. Before him, a small, shadowy creature floats in the air, waiting for an attack. Then, the creature transforms into a level 20 evil slime and charges forward. He then scoffs, saying a level 20 slime is a joke. His partner says he's never seen a monster like it, but Akai doesn't care. Preparing his power, he announces he will kill that monster instantly. Launching the attack, he calls the creature trash and unleashes his full power. His magic hits the monster head-on, creating a powerful impact. Celebrating, the team shouts that he managed to defeat the room's boss. Suddenly, the team members are attacked and dismembered in an instant. Turning back, he sees his companions falling lifeless to the ground. Screaming their names, Akai is hit by a surprise attack right after. The real monster then attacks him with its giant hand, finishing the blow. As he's consumed by the creature, Akai tries to break free but is completely overpowered. In its hand, the monster holds the power orb it ripped out. The core is then pierced by an attack, completely destroying Akai's mana. His eyes wide with shock, he feels all his strength suddenly draining away. Screaming in pain, he is completely absorbed by the creature's dark ooze. In the end, all that remains in the room is a dark, silent puddle. Watching from afar, Kronos smiles, satisfied with what just happened. He then says that he has now acquired a new and interesting pawn for his plans. Possessing Akai's body, he remarks that he has secured a new dawn for himself. Slowly pulsing, the interior of a strange cave begins to form. In the midst of the darkness, Akai's body sits alone in a shadowy place. Struggling to his feet, he tries to speak, still getting used to the body. With a scream, he declares that he feels great in his new form. Elsewhere, the Grand Tower of the Association stands out in the middle of the city. Meanwhile, Kronos remained bound by energy chains in an unknown location. Using his strength, he manages to break one of the chains holding him there. He then announces that a part of his seal has finally been broken. Cutting to the training facility, a mage lands hard during a session. During the fight, Kurosaki Rei faces multiple opponents at once without difficulty. He then spars with Oikawa, moving at high speed across the combat arena. Tired, Rei stops, as Oikawa suggests they take a short break. Praising his moves, Oikawa says they both did very well in today's training. Handing him a towel, Ichino says it was good teamwork. Turning to Kurahashi, Rei comments that he learned a lot just from watching him during the fight. Laughing loudly, Kurahashi celebrates, while Ichinos remarks that he's always acting like this. Changing the subject, Kurahashi mentions he ran into Rei's brother earlier in the city. With a smile, he confirms he told him all about the recommendation to become king. Aono Yuri then teases him, but he shouts in embarrassment, saying it's not like that at all. Thoughtfully, Rei comments that he hasn't seen Kai since the duel they had in the past. He then wonders when he and his brother started to drift apart. Remembering his past, he questions if everything will end up like it did in his previous life. Glancing to the side, he wonders if things will be okay if he just leaves them as they are. Suddenly, Shiroi runs towards them, shouting that she has terrible news. Worried, Oikawa asks what happened to make her come running like that. She reveals that the Shinjuku dungeon has collapsed, and many monsters are pouring out. In the city, a horde of monsters attacks people, spreading chaos everywhere. Startled, Yashiro and Shiroi wonder why the monsters are coming out of the dungeon. Seeing the scene, Kurahashi curses, saying the situation is bad because of all the people. Rei realizes the collapse was supposed to happen much later in his past life. Looking at the destruction, Rei realizes the future has changed unexpectedly. Saying it's no time to think, Oikawa warns they need to act on their own. He then stresses that the priority is to evacuate civilians, and the team agrees. Amid the chaos, a monster charges forward to attack a woman protecting her child. Arriving to save them, Oiki says he won't allow it and launches his attack. After rescuing the family, Ichinos asks if they are okay and receives their thanks. On another front, Kurahashi faces a monster, landing a punch with all his might. Being warned to be careful, he yells back at Shiroi that he already knows. Using an item, Oikawa creates a protective barrier and calls the civilians inside. Fighting with agility, Rei notices the elite team isn't fazed by the monsters. He concludes that, unlike in the past, they can now handle the situation together. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake, and a stone hand emerges from the earth. A giant golem then forms, surprising Ichinose and Iono with its size. Aono comments that it looks like the boss, while Ichinose is startled by the creature. Facing the enemy, Kurahashi says it's just a big, easy target. With a confident smile, Kurahashi agrees that the monster is just a target. Then, Kurosaki Rei leaps toward the golem, surprising Kurahashi with his action. Using the Abyss Flame, he hits the monster head-on and completely destroys it. Seeing this, Oikawa and Shiroi are impressed by the skill he displayed. Believing he has solved the problem, Rei prepares for the next step of the mission. Suddenly, a mysterious voice warns him not to get too carried away with his victory. Forced to his knees, he recognizes the familiar voice calling out to him. Lifting his head, he tries to understand who is speaking to him at that moment. Just ahead, a figure with wings of dark energy appears before him. Floating in the air, his brother Akai says he's finally found him. With a malicious smile, he calls out Rei's name, revealing his new appearance. Staring at the shadowy figure, Rei just watches his brother floating in the air. Shocked, he asks what happened, wanting to know why Kai is like that. With an evil smile, Kai asks why he's so surprised, mocking the situation. Charging forward at high speed, he yells that he's there to crush him completely. With a leap, Rei dodges the attack, which hits the ground with brutal force. Landing, Kai says he dodged well, but questions how far he can go. Leaping again, he warns that he won't let his brother escape this fight. The two then clash in mid-air, releasing a huge shockwave. As he defends himself, Rei realizes his brother is clearly not normal in this battle. Under pressure, he wonders what kind of form Kai has taken. Seeing his power, Rei concludes that his brother seems to have turned into a monster. Firing energy projectiles, Kai forces Rei to move and dodge the attacks. Looking at his own hand, Kai seems to be analyzing his transformation. He then says the look on Rei's face shows he's in denial. Walking towards him, Kai claims this is all Rei's fault. Kai continues, saying he became this so he could finally kill his brother. Confused, Rei wonders why his brother would transform just to kill him. He then concludes that Kai transformed with the sole purpose of killing him. Suddenly, Kurahashi appears and kicks Kai, interrupting their conversation. He then yells, questioning what he thinks he's doing during an emergency. Thrown back, Kai is scolded for showing up and talking about killing. Yelling at Rei, Kurahashi reminds him that Guy is his brother. Watching the scene, Rei just observes his friend trying to protect him from his brother. Scoffing, Kai says he doesn't care about brotherly bonds right now. He then reveals he's there to show Rei how strong his power is. Firing off attacks, he launches several energy spheres towards the group. The elite team is forced to dodge the attacks, which cause massive explosions. Defending themselves, Kurahashi and Rei prepare to face the new threat together. From a distance, Oikawa creates a barrier to protect the civilians there. He says he wants to help, but he can't just undo the protective barrier. Screaming in desperation, Rei begs his brother Kai to stop this madness immediately. Turning his head, Kai simply asks what he means by that. Rei continues, saying he knows he's violent, but not to this extent. With a mocking smile, Kai says he's talking nonsense and calls him naive. Suddenly, he clutches his head, seemingly in immense pain. Recovering, he curses, while Rei watches, not understanding his brother's reaction. Yelling that he'll crush him, he says this is punishment for underestimating him. His attack then splits into several beams that rain down across the field. Amid the explosions, Rei yells for Aya and Yuri to be careful. Laughing, Kai asks what they think, saying this is his true power. Seeing the destruction, Rei tells Kurahashi they need to stop him no matter what. Kurahashi says he understands, but talking to him seems like a waste of time. Preparing his power, he warns that if they're going to communicate, it'll be in another way. Leaping towards him, Kurahashi says he'll have to send him flying first. Yelling for him to listen up, Kurahashi charges forward to deliver a powerful blow. Pushed back by the blast, Rei defends himself as Kurahashi moves in to attack. With a smirk, he lunges at Akai without a second's hesitation. His expression hardening, he prepares to strike the enemy with full force. Getting close, he manages to grab Akai's face with one hand. Even while caught, Akai starts to laugh, showing the attack didn't work. Yelling with power, he easily breaks free from his opponent's grip. Pushed back, Kurahashi tries to resist the force of the enemy's counterattack. Then, Akai shoves his hand through his chest, landing a fatal blow. In his eye, the reflection shows Kurahashi's body being impaled by the strike. Seeing this, Rei calls out Kurahashi's name, completely shocked by the wound. Fallen on the ground, Kurahashi lies motionless as Akai just looks down on him. Calling him trash, Akai tells him to disappear, preparing a new attack. Filled with rage, Rei screams his friend's name, unleashing his fury. Turning around, Akai faces Rei, now focusing his attention on his younger brother. To protect him, an energy barrier appears and blocks Akai's attack. Angrily, Akai curses, frustrated that his attack was blocked by a barrier. Oikawa then says this is the level he stooped to, disappointed by his actions. He then warns that, in that case, he'll have to face him in this fight himself. Activating his ability, he traps Kai inside a powerful energy box. Aono warns him about using the skill on humans, and he confirms it's a burden. But he insists, saying he can't forgive anyone who hurts his friends. Screaming in pain, Kai tries to break free from the energy prison surrounding him. With his hand injured, Oikawa is surprised by the strength he's using. Ichino shouts his name, seeing that he's being injured by using the skill. He then admits this is harder than he expected. Even so, Oikawa says he has to seal him there, no matter what it takes. With a shout, Kai unleashes his power and manages to break the energy barrier. He then curses at Oikawa, completely shattering the prison that sealed him. Falling to his knees, Oikawa is drained of strength, while Kai watches him mockingly. Laughing, he warns that he won't let things go as he wishes. With a trembling hand, he shows that his body is becoming completely unstable. Looking aside, he says his body isn't in perfect condition. At this, Aono comments that Oikawa didn't hold back, yet he still complained. Announcing he's leaving, he ignores Oikawa's plea for him to wait. Then he stops suddenly and turns, facing Rei and calling his name. With a fixed stare, he warns that next time, he will definitely kill him. Leaping away, he leaves the battle area after making his threat. Flying over the city, he moves away, telling Rei to wait for that moment. On TV, the news reports an abnormal appearance of monsters in Shinjuku. A civilian being interviewed says they were saved, but everything's a mess. Watching the news, Goto comments that it really happened, but he didn't expect it. In a panic, people wonder if the monsters will keep appearing like that. In a room at the association, Oikawa observes the situation outside. He realizes that society is starting to panic because of the monsters, but he concludes that the current problem is the fallen Purple King, Kurosaki Akai. Closing his eyes, he wonders what he should do to resolve the situation. Sighing, he admits that things are getting worse and worse around there. Receiving his orders, Hojo Itsuki agrees to leave the matter to his team. With a determined look, he states that he will definitely solve this problem. At the hospital, a sign points to the intensive care unit. At the ICU door, a man waits outside, completely devastated. Inside the room, Ichinos watches Rei, who is sitting by the bedside. Sitting in the hallway, Rei says it's all his fault that Kurahashi is in this state. Staring into space, Rei laments not being able to persuade or stop Kai. Arriving, Ichinos and Aono call out to him, trying to snap him out of his trance. With a serious look, Aono informs him that the Blue King is calling for them. With his head down, Rei just nods, accepting the summons to the new meeting. Before their leader, the team gathers to discuss recent events. Hojo warns that even after clearing out the monsters, they can't let Kai run loose. Azuma and Yashiro comment that his transformation isn't natural and that many people were injured. Worried, Shiroi wonders what exactly they should do to solve the problem. Hojo then reveals he has already spoken with the primary color kings about this. Surprised, Ichinos understands that they're the ones who give orders in emergencies. Aono concludes that the situation is so serious that even the best mages feel threatened. With a serious look, Hojo tells Rei that even though he is his brother, the decision has been made. He then announces that they will subjugate Kurosaki Kai as soon as possible. Shocked by the order, Rei asks what it means to subjugate Kai in this situation. Shiroi explains that it's a term they only use for monsters. With a serious look, Oikawa says the word is correct, to everyone's surprise. Hojo explains that his indiscriminate actions were the same as a monster's. He then concludes that they need to end this decisively, now. Stating he knows where Kai is, he says he will participate in the mission. Desperate, Rei begs them to just arrest him, but Hojo says there's no other way. Hojo then points out that Oikawa's square box was useless against him. With a serious look, he announces the subjugation will take place tomorrow, as it has already been decided. Completely in shock, Rei is speechless upon hearing the leader's final decision. He then remembers that Kai has his flaws and likes to look down on others. Even so, Rei knows his brother has had his good points since childhood. With his head down, he wonders if there really is no other option. At that moment, Oikawa seems to sense something. Suddenly looking to the side, he then announces that the hospital just contacted him. With a smile, Rei realizes that Kurahashi seems to have regained consciousness. Oikawa then says he left a message for Rei, who becomes curious. Revealing the message, Oikawa says that Kurahashi told him to deal with his brother. Clenching his fist, Rei gets motivated, saying he can't just give up now. His determination comes from the fact that he is Kai's older brother. Going up to Hojo, he then makes a request and asks if he can have a chance. He explains that he knows the danger, but he saw his brother suffering when he found him. Believing there's a possibility, he begs the leader to let him try. Hojo then announces that the subjugation of Kurosaki Kai will begin tomorrow afternoon. As it is the king's final decision, it leaves Rei with no options. But Hojo smiles, saying they said nothing about acting before the appointed time. Understanding the hint, Rei realizes the opening his leader just gave him. With a relieved smile, he thanks him profusely for the opportunity he just received. Watching the scene, Aono and Ichinose smile, happy with the outcome of the conversation. Later, they ask Rei if the subjugation order was for them too. Ichinose then says that if Rei asks, they will definitely join him. Completely surprised, Rei looks at them both, moved by his companion's loyalty. Sighing, Hojo Itsuki comments that this is how things turned out. Then he says it's all right, dismissing the group to proceed with the plan. He just warns that the deadline is tomorrow, with no possible extensions. With a determined look, Rei prepares to find Kai and bring him back. Leaving the room, he looks up at the sky, now focused on his new mission. Far away, on a remote island, a heavy storm rages through the night. Beneath a tree, Kai shelters from the rain, looking badly injured. Near a remote island south of Tokyo, the group gets off the boat. Looking at the island, Rei mentions that his brother Kai is somewhere there. Suddenly, Oikawa appears and says they finally reached the designated spot. Recognizing the figure, Rei just says his name, surprised by his presence. Ichinos then asks why Oikawa would be there with them at that moment. Understanding the situation, Rei says he must be there to watch over Kai. Smiling, Oikawa confirms he's there on direct orders from the Blue King. He explains that his role is to watch the island and then take part in the subjugation. That's why he can't participate now, but he offers to help. Using his ability, he creates a protective barrier around Rei's group. He says the barrier should protect them for a minute, even though he's not at his best. At that moment, Rei realizes they made it in time because of Hojo's plan. Thanking Oikawa for his help, he promises to bring his brother back. As Rei turns, Oikawa calls out and asks him to wait. He then warns him that Kai's power is real and he might not listen. With a smile, Oikawa says that's why he'll interfere one more time. On the ground, Kai writhes in pain and agony, his body unstable. Feeling a surge of hatred, he stands up and screams, unleashing all his frustration. He then shouts that he hates everyone who doesn't understand him and underestimates him. In a fit of fury, he takes his anger out on a nearby tree. Then, he punches the ground, releasing his urge to destroy everything. Sitting in a chair, he says his only desire is to destroy everything. With a dark smile, Kronos encourages him to continue with his plan. The entity tells him not to hold back and to simply destroy whatever he wants. Trapped, Kronos notices that Kai hasn't completely fallen, so he decides to help him. Releasing his energy, He offers to help Kai unleash his full power. A huge explosion of energy then engulfs Kai's body on the island. The energy shoots up into the sky, visible to everyone there. Startled, Rei's group watches the explosion and wonders what it is. Oikawa looks at the sky in shock, seeming to understand what's happening. Falling to his knees, Kai begins to laugh maniacally at his new power. With a smile, he says, "This is all just wonderful" to him. Standing up, he feels satisfied with the power he just received. A voice then says he should rule the world as the new king. The voice continues, telling him to become the king of destruction, a demon king. With a smile, he finds the idea of becoming a demon king interesting. Agreeing, Kronos tells him to kill every mage he comes across. He then encourages him to go forward and destroy the world with his new power. Outside, Rei prepares to move forward and find his brother. Looking back, he calls out to Aya and Yuri, asking if they're ready. They confirm they are, ready to help him with the rescue mission. The group then moves forward, determined to get Kai off that island no matter what. Just ahead, Kai says he knew his brother was there to find him. With a serious look, Rei faces him, ready to start the conversation. Scoffing, Kai says he thought he would come with the Blue King. Rei then explains that Hojo entrusted him with the mission to bring him back. Annoyed, Kai doesn't believe him and asks what nonsense he's talking about. With a furious look, he decides he will destroy all of them right there. Screaming that he'll crush them, he punches the ground, releasing a wave of energy. The attack sweeps through the area, forcing Rei and the others to defend themselves. Standing, Rei is impressed by the firepower his brother just showed. He then realizes that Kai has become even stronger than the day before. Landing on the ground, Kai prepares to continue his assault on the group. He then declares war on humanity, warning that he'll start with them. Hearing that, Rei cries, understanding that this is Kai's true power. Even while crying, he manages a smile, accepting the reality of the situation. Kneeling, he says his brother has always been selfish with his decisions. Not understanding, Kai asks what he meant by that comment. With a confident smile, Rei announces he will face him with everything he's got. He then says it's his duty as the older brother to stop him right there. Mockingly, Kai tells his brother to stop acting so high and mighty. He then says that hearing that makes him furious and pisses him off. Watching the scene, Iono warns everyone that he won't listen and to be careful. Gritting his teeth, he prepares to unleash a powerful attack. Using his fire magic, he launches it towards Rei's group. Shouting for them to get out of the way, he attacks with a wall of flames. The group is forced to retreat as Rei shouts his companions' names. Seeing the explosion, Iono is impressed by the power and says they can't get any closer. Rei then says he's leaving them behind, guaranteeing they won't get in the way anymore. With an evil smile, Kai says he can now prove his power alone. Rei questions him, asking if proving his power is the only reason he fights. With a scornful look, Kai says that, as expected, he doesn't understand. He then claims that power is justice, because everything changed with the dungeons. He remembers how he was once recognized, but attitudes changed after a while. Yelling at Rei, he says no one will notice or acknowledge him unless he's strong. With a sad look, Rei calls out his younger brother's name. Just then, Kai launches an energy sphere, saying he'll make things clear now. Seeing that it's stronger, Rei realizes he can't use an ordinary skill. Using his own magic, Kai attacks with dark energy claws. Rei counters with the Abyss Spear, and the two powers clash. Kai then recognizes the skill he used during their duel. Shouting that he'll crush him, he summons a dark creature to attack. Yelling that he won't allow it, Rei rushes forward to intercept his brother's attack. He then leaps towards Kai, jumping over the creature's attack. As he gets close, he's stopped by Kai's hand, who tells him not to underestimate him. Spreading his fingers, Kai prepares a point-blank attack to hit his brother, but Rei breaks through Kai's defense, landing a punch on his face. He then realizes he managed to break his opponent's defensive barrier. With his hand glowing, he prepares to continue the exchange of blows. Angered, Kai curses at him and prepares for an immediate counterattack. Using body enhancement, Rei charges forward and hits Kai with a powerful punch. The attack sends him flying, causing an energy explosion on the ground. Watching, Ichinos wonders if he successfully landed the blow. On his knees, Rei realizes he can't steal his brother's skill. Still, he gets up, confident that he managed to land his attack on him. With a surprised look, he notices something strange happening to his opponent. On Kai's chest, a dark energy orb begins to form. With a pained expression, Kai wonders why this is happening. He remembers Oikawa's barrier, which protected him from the attack. He also remembers the friends who followed him to that dangerous island. He even remembers Kurahashi, who confronted him in the city to defend Rei. Angrily, he questions why everyone chose to follow his brother. Seeing Rei in front of him, he wonders why he is trying to stop him. With his hands on his head, he screams that all of this is so annoying. Unleashing his energy, he erupts in fury, ready for a new attack. Seeing the energy, Rei wonders if it's responding to Kai's emotions. With an evil smile, Kai creates several dark energy spheres around himself. The number of spheres keeps increasing, showing the control he has over his power. Seeing so many skills, Rei realizes Kai isn't using his overclock ability. Suddenly, a new energy begins to form around his opponent. Using the skill Iris Decay, he launches several spheres at Rei. Rei then realizes he's using many skills without using overclock. With a shout, Kai unleashes an attack with a powerful energy beam. The attack splits into multiple projectiles, forcing Rei to defend himself. The blast of energy hits the ground, causing a massive explosion. On his knees, Kai celebrates, saying he finally won the fight. He then screams that this is his power, and that Rei dared to act like his brother. With a look of hatred, he says Rei is nothing compared to him. A mysterious voice then asks why he seems so sad about his victory. Confused, he looks to the side and sees a mysterious figure approaching. Just then, Kurahashi's spirit appears, saying he won't let it end like this. With a determined look, he declares that he will definitely bring him back.